comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to offer a comment on something that's not on the agenda, and we try to keep public comment to 3 minutes or less, and it's not intended as a back and forth with the board, just an opportunity for anyone to offer a comment. Is there anyone either in the in-person audience or online that wishes to speak under public comment? Okay, so with that, we're gonna move to reports. I don't have any reports, but Kathy, I think you have a report under members' reports.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I couldn't get back to my office. I'm going to have to wing it, but I'll do it quickly. So there's been some discussion on the blog about the appropriateness of free cash. So I just want to clarify a couple things to help people understand why we have free cash. The free cash that we have each year historically has been mostly from the conservative estimate of local revenue. What's local revenue? It is mostly car excise taxes, it's transfer station sticker fees, it's building fees, it's interest on our bank account monies, it's pilot payments, et cetera. I had a problem with that a few years ago when I was on advisory and learned something the hard way. I said something at a meeting that Mr. Purple took great exception with, and he was right. So I started doing some checking myself, talked to people at the DOR. They absolutely encourage free cash for towns. Free cash is a buffer for the next year. In our case, local revenue bounces up and down. In fact, this year, Carla will tell you that the local revenue received to date is behind last year. We think we're going to be okay because, again, we have conservatively estimated it, but we have bumped it up a little bit. They've tried to be aggressive to help with our budget problem, but we think we're okay. But anyway, Department of Revenue encourages free cash. They want you to have free cash. And as Mr. Pfaff in the audience knows, we know by talking to the people at S&P that rate our bonds that cash reserves, which include free cash, are very important to that analysis. Last year, we had a lot more free cash than we usually do because we did have significant turnbacks from some departments, which we normally don't have. But the idea that we should not have free cash, I think, is erroneous, and I just wanted to offer a little bit of an explanation beyond what was able to be done in the blog, which I don't think is appropriate for me to debate.
I think it is absolutely an appropriate place to debate, and I have never advocated not having free cash.
All right. Mark, do you have anything under town administrators?
I do not.
Okay. So then moving to the consent agenda, I have a really small edit to the open session meeting minutes from February 24.
I'd like to hold B and C.
Okay. So I guess that means everything was held. So on the meeting minutes, here is my change. On line 127, the word "that" I think should be "the." That's the only change that I noticed.
Okay. We agree.
All right, I move, anyone else have any edits?
Okay.
I move that we approve the open session meeting minutes for February 24 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, Al, you held B and C.
Yeah, I just want to take individual votes on these matters. I've said in the past, I'm no longer going to rubber stamp these if we aren't asked about actually posting them first. Further, I am concerned that in the last report from the town administrator, he indicated that we were, depending on the status of the benefits budget, we faced actual reductions, and as I've said before, I think we ought to be having a temporary hiring freeze until we resolve that matter. And this, going ahead and filling these positions does not send the right message. So I will move that we appoint the Select Board Executive Assistant.
All right, is there a second? I second. Okay, all those in favor? And all those opposed? Okay, it passed 4-1. And it's the same issue.
I don't need to repeat myself.
Okay, I move that we appoint the Senior Center Program Manager.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay.
you.
So I think we've got through the consent agenda. All right, so then the main focus of this meeting is to get the warrant for the April 11 annual town meeting in as good a shape as possible. Everyone get really excited because we've been we're stalling this. And this meeting is also joint with advisory and CIPC. So Vanessa, could you call over
So you've got Steve, Eric.
where's,
I think she's already brought him over.
okay, all right.
So, who'd she bring over?
Yeah.
We have Jason.
Okay, Marcy, okay.
Yep.
So Marcy and Jason, do you want to call your meetings to order?
Can I just ask a clarification? Are you doing personnel first or CIPC first?
Here's what the plan was. I was first going to ask, where's Brian? Brian to just give a quick little snapshot about the most recent rev cap, because that may affect some of these, and then have you speak about the SAP bylaw article, then have you speak about CIPC, and then where I was going to go is ask Jim Haggerty, and then Lisa Brasio. Then I don't think there's anyone here on the plastic bag ban citizens petition, but if someone is, hear from them. And we talk about the operational budget. Then we go through some maybe consent articles, ones that are repeat articles, and try to take one vote on as much as possible there. Then the zoning articles, then anything else left. So with that in mind, the idea is to go first SAP and then CIPC. Is there also, do you have a meeting of personnel? Do you have a quorum of personnel too, or?
John's here, Jason.
All right, so there's one CIPC member in the Zoom audience and 0 personnel. So I don't think I have a quorum of either. It's a 3 for each of them.
All right.
So I'm not going to call either to order if you have none in the room. Or do you have anyone other than John in the room?
No.
Just John.
Just John.
Okay, so I do not have a quorum of personnel or CIPC.
And
Do you want
Marcy?
Brian Sorry.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. It does look like we have a quorum online. Larry, me, Eric, and Andrew in person. Howard should be joining around 7. Barry and Tim will be absent tonight. Thank you. So I call advisory meeting to order at 6:40. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so Brian, do you want to come up? Is your mic working?
Yes, I think it is.
Okay.
Feels like we were just here. So this is pretty brief. There's not a whole lot that changed since last time we talked about this. I think it actually went up, our levy capacity went up about $9,000. So Mr. Cundiff, the superintendent, had an adjustment on his budget for $28,000 for stipends, for contractual stipends. That was missed during the budget preparation for that department. So we put that in, and we also had a couple of old articles that, every year we clean out old articles. Some years there's quite a bit. This year there was only about $9,000 and change that is coming back to the town. So that went into the mix also. And only really other thing is I offset the $28,000. We don't want to go backwards. That because I had a little flexibility with the ambulance fund, so we offset that just to make it a clean adjustment for the DPW. I don't think there was anything else, so that's it. It's pretty small. The capital all stayed the same. We did propose, the one thing that we care, or you may care, is we did propose 4 items to be funded out of free cash, just to, that doesn't affect the levy balance, but just to, so they can get these items ordered quicker. That's sometimes a little trick you can do. So the facilities and police vehicles and DPW vehicles, so there's 4 items, and they total about $700,000. So hopefully that's okay with everyone. Other than that,
So do that again. So the 4 police vehicles, the
Yes.
2 light ones, the 2 heavy ones,
yes.
John's vehicle, understand that one.
Yeah,
And then what on the DPW?
the 2 big ones,
Okay.
262,000, the big trucks. So both of those. We all know that, again, I know I've said this before, but we all know the ordering is really back. You know, you order these things and they don't come in for a year. So we thought that might be a good idea. But other than that, that's where we stand.
So Andrew, can I ask a technical question?
Sure.
So Lisa asked the question first tonight. I hadn't really paid any attention to where it was going. So we're going to, Carla, fund the PEG money out of the budget? That's what we're going to do? So the wrap-up motion will basically say that much is funded out of?
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay.
That's what offsets it.
All
Yep.
right.
Okay. Jason, why don't I turn over to you for just a summary of the amendments to the SAP, which is Article 4 in the warrant?
Sure, and you all have the summary handout as well, correct, in your
Yep.
packet? Before I go through it, is there any specific questions from the board? Because a lot of them are cosmetic changes. I will certainly walk through the substantive ones, but just want to anchor this discussion to the board's review first and just see if there's anything I can hit off the bat.
Does anyone have any questions? I reviewed it and found them to be pretty technical, you know? I think I would still appreciate an overview of them, but I don't have any specific questions right now.
Sure. So I'll provide the overview if there's no specific questions at this time. So, as you all know, the Personnel Board meets on a monthly basis. We went through the following process this year to come to the changes that are proposed before you. First and foremost, I remind you that we did make some substantive changes back in October at the special town meeting. So essentially, this is a half a year's work presented in the article for the annual town meeting. The process that we underwent is the town administrator, who also acts as personnel director, and the assistant town administrator proposed a series of changes for our consideration based on issues that they deal with on a regular basis, overseeing many of these employees or answering consultations for the ones that aren't under their direct supervision. We listened to a first proposal of those changes and certainly had debate and changes to them in terms of what ultimately came forward for a vote at the annual town meeting. We also consulted with Labor Council throughout the process as the Personnel Board had questions on some of the changes, and that ultimately informed some of the direction that we went on some of these articles. And then finally, we had multiple times where we sent the current version as marked up to all SAP employees to receive feedback from them to get their perspective as well. And some of their feedback was incorporated into the ultimate article that has been at least voted unanimously by the Personnel Board at this point in time. The items that I would specifically call out are that have a financial impact to the town are in section 17 of the SAP, specifically section 17, Schedule A. This is a update to the salary grid for the year, which gives, and I presume has been carried forward in every budget that's been submitted to you to date, a cost of living adjustment of 3% to all employees with a satisfactory pay increase, and also continues to recognize years of service and tenure to the town with an additional 2% as our employees move between steps. So the 2% is based on the performance evaluation being satisfactory or greater, and the 3% is across the board related to cost of living, even if someone does not move between steps. In addition, in Section 17, Schedule B, we are proposing to add 3 specific stipends that were advocated for by department heads that would be overseeing this. One is the certified accountant, which would relate to the assistant town accountant position, the records access officer, and the registered sanitation within the Board of Health. And then also within Section 17, Schedule B, you should all be very familiar with this one because you all were the ones that sent us the advocacy around this, is the addition of administrative cemetery agent and changing that stipend to $4,000 to cover the SAP employee that covers this. The other $4,000 is covered by union contract, and we have now voted to make this stipend effective the day after town meeting to compensate the employee for the work done during FY26. Our understanding was that this has already been budgeted for and accounted for. It was just accounted for obviously a different employee based on how the roles ended up coming out. The other significant item that we spent a lot of time discussing and went through various iterations on was what happens when an employee steps into and up to a position of acting department head. So currently, what has happened with past practice based on the SAP is that an employee would receive a 10% increase to their current salary when that happens. So department head A leaves and the person that was reporting to them steps into that role while the town looks for their replacement. That employee was getting 10%. Our proposal, given the magnitude and rule change, again, on a temporary basis, is for that to go to 25%. Noticeably absent, though, in this is we were also asked to consider what happens when an individual kind of covers for another department, but not necessarily stepping out of grade. We were asked to consider doing something similar there, and the Personnel Board did not recommend that, which is why the current article is silent on that. There, as Andrew mentioned, there are numerous other technical changes that have been considered as part of this process, but I wouldn't say anything of substance or significant discussion, but more clarifying to make it clearer in terms of enforcement of current practices. Mark, I'll let you or Vanessa speak if you think you would add anything to that summary.
No, I think that was good, Jason. Again, after some of the changes that the Personnel Board has made over the past couple of years, this is really a light version. I do think I think you've hit the high points. I really don't have anything else to add.
Does anyone have any questions? I don't see any questions, Jason. Does advisory have any questions? Andrew's shaking his head. Marcy?
Hello. I do have a couple questions, Jason. On the 25% for acting roles, what if that 25% pushes a salary greater than the position of record? Meaning, what happens then? So if you get to 25% raise and you're making more than the person who occupied the position before?
We put specific language to cap it. Actually,
Okay.
Mr. Shea on our board actually caught that during the discussion, and that was that's part of the language. So it would be up to the current pay rate of the incumbent that had left and vacated the position.
Okay. The only other question I had, just for clarification, not that I disagree, is for the ratings, satisfactory or greater, what are the ratings above that and below?
I'll defer to the personnel director on that.
Okay. Is there somebody online?
Thanks, Jason.
Okay.
I don't have
You
the
fill
form.
out the evaluations.
Yeah, I know, but I don't have the form in front of me, so I'm happy to look that up. There is 2 ratings above satisfactory, and at least 1 below.
Oh, okay. Are there performance bonuses associated, I forget, with the ratings above? Or no?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't know if other advisory members had questions. Larry, Eric?
None for me, thank you.
Yeah, nor me. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Looks like that's it for advisory. Thank you.
Okay. So then, Jason, do you want to now put on your CIPC hat, take off your personnel board hat?
Sure. So just still to note, unless someone's walked into the room, there is no quorum of CIPC before I go into this. I haven't seen anyone pop online that would create a quorum. So the CIPC came before you in January. The only two new developments, and I guess there's three new developments and understanding that we have based on our meeting last night. One is my understanding is that you have received some gifts to cover some of the capital items primarily related to police cruisers. So I believe Brian has reduced appropriately the items that appear in our presentation compared to what they are now. The other item that we became aware of is an emergency replacement to a facilities department van. I believe both advisory chair and select board chair were also informed of that. At the time of the initial submission, it was asked of capital to remove the DPW overhead doors and replace the van. Both fall within the facilities department, so that was the request of Mr. Purple. We did go back and ask if Mr. Cundiff, who obviously occupies the DPW building, was okay with that. And because we had some strong reservations, given how long the overhead doors have been on the capital plan, that continuing to punt that one down the road was potentially a recipe for far greater expense than we already were looking at. So where capital has landed is we are voting to support adding the facilities van that is now permanently out of service. However, we have taken the position that that should not sacrifice any other capital item that was previously voted and supported to be brought forward. And to the extent that you do need to make cuts in that department, overall from a capital allocation perspective, that we would probably have to go back to the drawing board to reprioritize. Our understanding from Mr. Ballantyne was that that was not necessary yet, absent any guidance to the contrary tonight. The third item that capital has not vetted, but we have been asked to vet, and we just need either Mr. Purple or Mr. Cundiff or some combination thereof, is the Atwood site remediation, which was not available or considered as part of our fall process or brought forward. So we're going to hold any recommendation on that until town meeting. The only additional items we've been asked to consider that directly relate to the warrant language that you all decide to use is there is a new provision this year that we're going to certainly all the items are called out in terms of how we get to a total capital appropriation on the non-debt funded items, and it gives the town administrator authority to move the total amount that ultimately gets approved in that article between different items. So if police department needs a little more or less for their cruisers and DPW needs a little more or less, as long as it sums to that final amount, giving him the authority to do that. I think our question would be, should there be some sort of supplementary discussion or letter to a board that meets in public, whether it be the select board or capital committee, in the event that that's going to happen. So if you choose to adjust your wording for that or just leave it at the town administrator, that's just something for you all to deliberate on as you finalize the warrant article language. And then the second item that I think was discussed at last night's capital meeting and kind of goes to how the charge and ultimately town code reads related to capital is whether there should be a recommendation printed in the warrant from CIPC related to any capital article, much like you do for select board and advisory. and that's based on just kind of the wording that exists in the town code, in the bylaw that was approved to make us a permanent committee a few years ago. That's all I got for now. Happy to answer any questions.
Maybe, do we want to go first, or we could also just ask, because we've already talked about this a lot, or
Yeah, I don't think advisory has
that's what I was.
voted at all on capital. Am I correct? I should be. So, yeah, I
maybe
think.
we turn it over to the,
Yeah.
or Al, did you have a specific?
Yeah, particularly on the capital bonding matters. You know, we have our FY '27 estimated amounts, which are typically not reflective of the long-term budget impacts of those borrowings. And I think particularly as we talk about the roads, sidewalks, and drainage bonding, we need to be brutally frank with town meeting about what this is actually going to cost as we go forward and we fully use that bonding capacity. So I think, you know, if we only looked at the FY '27 estimated amounts, it's, you know, fairly modest relative to the size of the borrowings. And so I think this is one, I'm going to pick on the roads for a minute, but I think it reflects on all of them. This is one where I think we need to have an extensive discussion with town meeting, lay out what this is actually going to cost, because this ultimately, you know, we all know our roads, well, I'll try and be nice about it, but they're not very good. And we've underfunded our roads for a long time. But this will be a major increase in the amount of money that we are spending on road maintenance and road development. And our police officers in the back will no longer have to bounce up and down as they go down Northborough Road, maybe. But I think we need to have, a very clear presentation about what the long-term costs are, because we're going to be if this is approved, between the DPW and debt, we will be spending a lot more on roads than we have in the past. This is a decision which should ultimately be in the hands of town meeting and the voters, but I think we need to be very upfront about what the long-term costs are there, rather than simply looking at them as the fiscal '27 impacts.
Okay. I think that's a good suggestion. Marcy, do you want to?
Sure.
You know, any questions advisory has for Jason about capital?
Sure, we can start with Andrew in the room. Andrew, you have any questions?
I think we've talked a little bit about Atwood. I think that one, we need to hold off on until we can get some details on that one. I think to Al's point, I think we could probably just adjust the spreadsheet in here to say, FY '27 impact and total project impact or something like that.
Something like that.
Whatever the interest is on it over the life that we're planning on bonding it.
Well, I think capital, Jason should make a presentation, like Al said,
Yeah.
to truly put it on a spreadsheet, show it.
Yeah.
Show what
Yeah.
we're thinking, what's going to happen every year. So I do believe that, I agree, it should be done, and capital should do it.
And I think Mr. Ballantyne and particularly Mr. Cundiff on the road should be part of that. And we can figure out how we work through that to keep it brief, but also informative, because I think Mr. Hamilton's comment is well received, at least by me.
Andrew, you have anything else?
In terms of Article 12, Brian, do we need to, if we have it in the levy here, some of this stuff is going to need to be debt exempted, right? Like, should we have an extra column there that isn't levy? Right, you have DPW, roads and sidewalks, right? 22 million, levy, 22 million. We're going to exempt that, right? So we wouldn't show it as levy, we would show it as, okay. So I think we just need to clean that up. terms of capital, I mean, I think we need to understand what's going on with healthcare too. If we're not going to have the savings that we think we are going to have, then we are going to need to cut capital. So I think until we get the operational side totally clean, that's the same reason we haven't voted on it yet. We're waiting for town meeting's vote. So making sure that we're not behind the 8 ball here, I think that's the only part.
Okay, but hold on. So you're supposed to recommend a budget to town meeting, so you're not going to vote on capital till town meeting?
No, we need to know if there's $500,000 that are going to come back into
So
the
you want
budget.
that, you want the operational budget done, including all questions resolved as far as healthcare, before you vote on capital. Marcy, I'm actually looking at you, and
Personally, I
Yeah.
leave it up to the committee, but, you know, if we get this down and we're, you know, $200,000-300,000 in the black and we're looking at under 5%, and all of a sudden that flips back and we're $250,000 in an override and we're at 6%, then I think that changes my opinion on some capital items, and I'll defer to the rest of the committee.
so are you saying that you agree on the proposed capital pending finalization of the operating budget,
I can't support Atwood at this point,
other than Atwood?
other than Atwood. Personally, that's my opinion. But why don't we go to the rest of advisory?
Yep. Well, I can speak for myself. I completely agree with what Al had said and Jason concurred with, making it really clear to voters on the impacts of these things, and what Andrew just said. I think that's our position right now, so I don't have to repeat it all, but I would concur with that approach. So we have work left to do on advisory, but I'll let the other members that are here tonight speak if they have questions too. Eric or Larry?
No,
Eric.
oh, go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say that Marcy said almost the same words that I was going to say. And I agree with Andrew that until we understand what the bottom line is going to look like, it's hard to sort of just agree to adjustments in the middle without understanding the impact. So I think we need to get the operational budget solid first and see where things sit.
Eric?
Yeah, just one question. The scope of the Atwood remediation at 823,000, is that the entirety of the cleanup, or is that part of it and there'll be more later?
That's the entirety of the cleanup.
Okay. That's all I have. Everything else has been said. Thank you.
All right, I think we still don't have other members, so we're back to you, Andrew Dennington.
Okay, select board, questions?
Nope.
For Jason? Yeah, Kathy?
No, I think I asked all my questions when they came in front of us, and we basically had the same schedules we had before. We're still waiting for Fay School to decide whether they would agree to donate money for a police car, but I don't think that answer's coming anytime soon.
Marguerite or Tim, you have any questions or comments?
My only comment would be, it's still, I mean, all in all, the budget's pretty high, so, for the year-on-year increase. So, I mean, I was wondering if this area, if we could take out like around 1% and still be able to do most of these, if not all of them. Because I know that we do this as a max, so I was sort of thinking, is 17 grand? I would think 17 grand's flexible within the numbers that we have here across everything, like $1,000 off each thing would still be a fair assumption. So I was kind of thinking around that, if we could lower this as a 1%.
I don't understand, what do you mean?
Me neither.
So we have estimates for a number of things here. So a DPW truck is $262,000, and $262,425. Eventually, we will get money back from whatever we trade in, although it's not worth much money. So my general idea right now was, as we try to scale everything back, every little bit helps. So if we said 1% of this overall number, I still think we accomplish everything, we just have a little bit less to work with. It's just starting to find every little piece that we can to try to scale back a little bit at a time.
Jason, you want to speak to what your view is on that?
I know that there is certainly probably contingency in some of the appropriation, but knowing how the department heads submit budgets to us in quotes, they've already gotten hard quotes that may actually fluctuate. And we all know they don't fluctuate in the right direction. And, they did the best they could. Like I'm thinking police cruisers as an example. Hopefully that number holds, but obviously it's going to be a matter of how you fund each of these articles. And like, can you buy it the day after town meeting, i.e. free cash items versus items have to wait till July 1st. You just run the risk of supply chain. So while I certainly individually would not dismiss like being able to figure it out and squeeze it out, I think it would be potentially deceiving to the taxpayers to present the numbers that we currently have for the appropriations article, do a $17,000 cut, and then, leave it in the hands of the town administrator and the respective department heads. And I think you run the risk that those department heads would then run to advisory if, they're $2,000 short of a cruiser, because these things wouldn't be carried in their operating budget. I don't think they'd have the ability to fund a capital item through their traditional operating budget. That's just not usually policy wise how we go. So I would think that if it's the board's intention to follow Mr. Fling's recommendation, we would have to probably go back to one or more departments to get them to agree to cut pro rata, or just cut one item in its entirety.
So Tim, just to be clear, you want to take out $15,000 of the capital budget? That's where you're going?
Yeah, about $17,000, 1%. So I think
he's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you are suggesting that we reduce all of the items funded by the general fund by 1%.
Capital items.
Each item, yes, each capital item.
So that's
Is that correct?
$15,000, $16,000, $17,000, which would, correct me if I'm wrong, reduce the year over year by 3 basis points, maybe? Maybe not even that much? Not even 1 basis point? Well, it takes $580,000 to do 1%, so I just did that math. So you go from 4.88 to maybe 4.87 or 4.86?
that's a start. Let's keep going through the rest of it and see where else we can keep coming down. But that's what I would suggest, is we start here. Across this, isn't one of the other articles supposed to be easier moving of money around, so we would be able to reallocate easier? So, I mean, it's only 17 grand on an overall $1.7 million line item.
Okay, I see Bill Condip's in the audience here. Bill, do you want to weigh in on anything that you've heard here? I wasn't suggesting that you would. I just saw that, I said now that you're here, it might save you some time if there were any things you heard that you could.
Sorry, had to turn on my mic. I'm certainly open to going through the exercise of doing that. I'm not sure it's going to achieve the end goal that is desired. I think there would be more value in trying to identify things that we can either modify operations or do without. We've vetted these items with capital and with advisory pretty significantly already, but cutting that amount of money, I'm not sure what you'll gain, as to Kathy's point, aside from going through the exercise of doing it. That's my opinion.
Bill, does that number for the vehicles include the trade-in value back?
It does not, but it's such a nominal value. It's that conservatism that we like to have built into the operation. And then we do return the funds at the end of the year as free cash.
Correct. Okay.
Mark, I believe the Broncos did. The two other police vehicles included the trade-in value.
Yes, yeah, no, normally they do. I just wasn't sure if
Just
DPW did. Yeah.
Make sure everybody understands that part. Andrew, before we go on to the next subject, since we're still on capital, proposing a question to advisory, which we can't vote on tonight because it's not on our agenda, would advisory consider doing a reserve fund transfer for the facilities van which is similar to one we did a few years ago for the building commissioner's vehicle. After that went belly up. Just, it would have to be on a future meeting, but would advisory, support that kind of an idea, or should we wait till town meeting?
To do it right now.
Do it right now.
Well, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
And now that we got Bill here, he could also give you a view about whether, Bill, I think that there is not, the thing that they're about to consider here, snow and ice, we had a lot of snow, right? That's your classic example. You should try to think about, reserve fund for there, but I think you've got room in your overall budget, right? So that even though we're blowing past the budgeted numbers for snow overtime, et cetera, that you're likely not going to need a reserve fund transfer to cover that, right?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I like to operate in the world of being conservative, and that's my main reluctance as to committing to that tonight. We have done projections where, on the conservative end, we're probably around $50,000 over our salary and overtime budgets. But realistically, if we look at our averages, now that we're getting out of the winter season, that overtime should come down. We could break even on the salary item. On the expense side, I think we'll be okay as well. So as a wash, as a whole.
Okay.
So Bill, just to be clear, the reason Andrew said what he did is the reserve fund's got $180,000 in it. Nothing's been used so far for fiscal year '26. So if what Andrew Pfaff is suggesting, which is go ahead and fund John Parent's vehicle now out of reserve fund, which is what, 70, 71, then that would only leave 110 or so in the reserve fund for anything you might need. So we're just trying to make sure that we don't cut off your ability to go to the reserve fund if you need to.
You explained
Well,
it a lot better than
I haven't revisited my expense budget since this last storm, so I do want to go back and take a look before I actually commit.
And so Andrew's suggestion is a good one, because if we did this, right, and did it now and took it out of the budget for fiscal year '27, then obviously the reserve fund would turn back $110,000 instead of $180,000, so it would affect free cash for fiscal year '26. Which then goes into the fiscal year '28 budget. So it would at least reduce the levy for fiscal year '27.
Understood.
But the advisory's got to decide to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, John would get his van, a month or two earlier?
It's my understanding he's renting a van right
What was the expected
now.
life of the van? Do we have any idea about that?
What
It
year is the
already
van?
died.
It's been condemned, I will say that.
No, but.
He's renting a car, he's renting a van right now to
Well, I understand, but had it not died,
I have
were we
no idea.
expecting to get a few more years out of it?
I have no idea.
It was not anywhere close on the capital plan based on what it was provided to capital.
It's a
It was a
2016.
huge surprise.
Okay. So, I mean, this meets the unexpected threshold, I think.
2016, Mark said.
2016.
Oh, okay.
Definitely an early.
No,
Yes.
I drive a 2018, so, this meets the unexpected threshold, I think.
So why don't you guys think about it and decide whether you're going to approve it, then we'll know what to do.
So would advisory like the finance director to provide a formal request?
Marcy, would you be willing to put the straw poll to see if we would want to put together a request?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think most will be in favor. I support this, but we could do a straw poll tonight and take it up at our next meeting, which may be next week, pending Bill's reassessment of the books, if that works. But sure, if you want to take a straw poll now.
Sure.
Andrew?
Aye.
Marcy, aye. Larry?
Reluctantly, but aye.
Okay. Eric?
Aye.
Okay. I don't see anyone else yet. Okay. So that would be all members present, aye.
All right, so we'll we'll put that together and we'll submit that to advisory. Thank you.
Okay, so then, based on
Thank
that,
you.
do we want to,
Take it off
yeah, we
capital.
would take it off,
Yeah.
we remove Article 9, Item B, right? All right, is there anything more we can accomplish about capital?
I think just one item that Ms. McAuliffe just sent me a missive on is that the fire PPE, which is coming out of ambulance fund, is not listed in that article. So that would be added in. Again, that's not going to affect the tax rate, but that is an item that needs to be put in, so.
To Article 9?
Yes, so we can swap out the facilities vehicle and we can put the fire PPE in.
Okay. All right, last call then. Is there anything further we can accomplish with CIPC here tonight?
Mark, what's the fire PPE? Is it 110
$40,000.
$40,000.
or 40?
Yep.
Okay,
It's in the listing that you have that Brian passed out.
okay. Thank you.
So I think we're down to 4.76 or so every year with that.
Thank you.
Moving the right way.
Is there anything else we need to stay on for? No.
Yeah, well, I think I'm getting to, can we let Jason go?
Okay.
Anything else for, because the rest of the things we're going to talk about are, there's some articles that, Lisa's here to talk about the CPC articles. Jim Haggard is here to talk about his articles. These are all things where advisory, I assume you guys would be taking votes on it, so that's why I think you should just stick around for the rest of it. All right. Jason, I think you can, we're done unless you got any.
Do we want to vote the SAP?
Can I make a point? I assume that our police force is here tonight because of the police department budget, right? And are we done talking about the budget?
No, we're going to talk about the operational budget.
Okay, so we are going to get to this.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
sorry, Andrew.
What I'm trying to do here is to prioritize the folks here who have come. We have appointments to them. They're going to talk about things, but there's no need for make them wait until 10 o'clock at night, right?
Well, that's what I was trying to do, given, I hope we're protected in town while everybody's here.
Some have left.
All right. Okay. So Jim Hegarty. Are you ready for, all right. So I've asked Jim to come because, let me get the number of it.
25.
Thank you. Article 25 in this draft warrant is a proposal to have the town change the town clerk position from elected to appointed. And this is proposed by Mr. Hegarty. So I'm going to turn it over to you to explain why you are proposing this.
Jim Hegarty, 14 Crest Drive. I come here to talk myself out of a job, right? Let's call it a day. Anyway, the gist of it is, my term as a clerk is up for reelection this spring, and I'm 70 years old. I'm not going to stay in the job much longer. And it has become evident to me that the complexity of this job and the almost 11 years I've been in the job has increased dramatically. And we've had a couple of situations where I've been alone in that office without anybody in the office that has any experience in the clerk's office. And if I became injured or I was out of here, I had a 5-day unexpected visit to the hospital this year. We're in a lot of trouble. And the consequence of not having people in that office that have experience working in the clerk's office with elections and things is a pretty big deal. And it's just become a lot more complex. There are over 400 sections of the Massachusetts general laws that refer to actions of the clerks. So it's a pretty steep learning curve to do this properly. And as much as I enjoyed the independence of being elected, I think that that is the best move going forward. And I think that, anyway, so the way the statute reads, it can be converted from an elected, check that, from an elected to an appointed position based upon two things. One, it has to be approved by a vote at the annual town meeting, and two, it has to be on the ballot at the annual town election. Now, because the term is expiring, it has to, the ballot has to be on, so I pull nomination papers and running. That may confuse people that I'm running for reelection, but I'm also asking you to vote for the ballot question. So if people vote on the ballot question and that passes, then it would negate me winning, and I would be out of a job as of, I think it's 3 days after the election, unless the board at that time chose to appoint me to be the newly appointed clerk. And that's it in a nutshell. Today, I was part of a group that does quarterly mentoring for new town clerks, and we had 12 people there. And it really drove home again today that you don't want to screw up elections with people's votes. It's a big deal, and that's why I think they should be appointed. And that's it.
Al?
How many towns in the Commonwealth have appointed versus elected clerks? Do you have a feel for that?
It's just under a third, and the trend is for more positions to be appointed versus elected.
And do you have a feeling for, in our immediate neighborhood, whether they're elected or appointed? Sort of comparable towns or?
Sure, Hopkinton is elected, Westboro is elected, Northborough is appointed, Marlborough City Clerk and Framingham City Clerk are both appointed. Framingham used to be elected until a couple of years ago. I would say most of the towns in our immediate area are elected, but the trend is to be appointed. I'm not aware of any position that's going from appointed to elected.
When we appoint a town clerk, assuming this passes, would you envision this person being part of the SAP, or would this more likely be a contract position?
That's up to your board.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm looking at I should have looked at got this earlier, but the language in Article 25, it doesn't say who does the appointment.
Great point. But the way I understand the statute is absent specific language giving somebody else appointing authority, it is the select board's authority to appoint every other position. So it defers to you.
Okay. All right, I'm sure that question's going to get asked at town meeting.
Sure.
Wouldn't you want to put it in there, though, so that,
No, the language has to be exactly as it's actually, the language is specifically in the statute that way.
okay, so someone can amend it to say, let the whatever board,
The
okay.
statute is very specific of the language.
You're demonstrating why we need a good town clerk.
Yeah, I know I know it sounds contrarian or a little funky, but it's word for word what you see in the statute. And ran it by town council, and he agreed. It's short and sweet, but that's what it is.
So, okay,
What's the situation today, to use your hospital example? What happens if, you wouldn't be able to perform the duties? Like, what's the process today to replace or handle that position? Is it wait till the next election, or is there?
If I get hit by a bus tonight?
I mean, I hope it doesn't happen,
no.
but you brought up the hospital
No.
example, so.
In fact, that happened 4 years ago for an election. I fell, and I missed the 2020 election. I was in the hospital. It's 120, I guess it was, yeah, 4 days before the election. And thankfully, Amy Berry was the deputy town assistant town clerk, was the title back then. And she'd been in the role for about 6 months, and good luck to Amy. She sees me on the ground bleeding, and the tag, it's all yours, Amy, and she did a great job. Right now, Amber Smith starts on Monday, and we have a part-time administrative assistant who's been with us for 4 months, perhaps. So if I was out of the picture tomorrow, there are some retired clerks that will come back and work part-time at different towns. So you could, grab somebody's stopgap. Andy Dowd was the former clerk in Northborough, very competent guy. Andy would, probably come in and help you out. There's ways to make it work. But there's just a lot of balls in the air down there. It's not rocket science, but if you screw up somebody's voting stuff, the confidence of people in the voting stuff is enormously important. It just is. And I think we do a pretty good job of doing it the right way, that people should have confidence that we care about it and we do it the right way, and that I don't care if you vote for the Tooth Fairy, we're going to do the best to allow you to do that. And that, as you well know nationally and even other parts of the state, it's not necessarily so.
all right. So, the way I think about it is, probably the argument that people would make to continue having an elected town clerk is, it's a position that needs to be very neutral, and you want to separate it out from other elected positions. But then the other argument I think of is, for a position this important, why would you restrict the talent pool of the people that could be in that position to? It's a very small number of people who are interested in running for town office. And a lot of people want nothing to do with anything like that.
Except that this one is a paid position. So I don't think you should equate it, to the library board of trustees or to the planning board. This is a paid position where there could be a group of people that might want to step up and might not necessarily be qualified to step up. So I think the argument here is that you want to make sure you pick someone that has the appropriate town clerk experience, so that they can do the job properly, because it's a complicated job. Look how far Jim has brought this office in 11 years from what it used to be.
But Jim has treated, this as a professional, position more than, he is elected, but, it is becoming more, thorny in terms of regulations, in terms of requirements, and Jim has, been, I guess, more professional than, I don't want to say elected's not professional, but he's more qualifications than simply how many votes he got for the position.
We
other
can-
thing-
We can think of Jim as the Tom Brady of our town clerks.
He looks better,
we've
he
been,
dresses better, so.
yeah, we've been spoiled, and, so, you've set a high standard, and I think this is the right thing to do.
But the other thing that appointing lets you do versus elected, you've got a broad pool of candidates. They don't have to live in Southborough and be a voter. So you can truly, ask people to apply that actually have town clerk experience.
There's a couple of other things on the negative, well, not negative side, but the dark side of the world here. As an elected official, there are no set hours. I could come in an hour a week, put my shoes up, work a bit, whatever you want. That's the reality if you chose to act that way. And if somebody gets elected and chooses to do that, you're stuck with that person for 3 years. There's no way to do a recall or anything else. I know of, off the top of my head, 4 instances where appointed clerks were very negligent in their job and were fired. They uncovered their failings to do this, that they lied about what that they should have done, they didn't do, kind of a deal, and the management of the town dismissed them. If that were to happen with an elected clerk, you're stuck with that for 4 years. 3 years. And I think that really does matter. Anyway, I just think it makes sense. Frankly, I did not think this way when I started 11 years ago, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I hope you'll support me, and this is what I'm going to say at town meeting. I think it's the right thing to do.
I'm looking to see whether this is in the SAP. It's not in the SAP.
I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so. So then, to the
It'd be a
answer,
contract.
it would be a contract.
Sure. That's up to you guys, how you do it and who you pick.
Well,
It's
if,
going to be
if
more
this,
money than we're currently paying Jim, I suspect.
if it passed, right, then the select board would need to appoint someone fast. And because it's not in the SAP, that's just the way you need to do it, right?
Do it as a bridge.
Yeah, as a bridge. All right.
Yeah, and I'm not looking to go off into the sunset. I'd be happy to stay around for the summer or the fall or whenever you want to do what you want to do. Now, I'll have to hire a personnel lawyer to negotiate with Mr. Frankel.
You can deal with Ms. Hale. You've been dealing with Ms. Hale in all your hiring processes. I think you're very familiar, so.
And speaking of Ms. Hale, I was neglected when I talked to you before about the process we went through to hire Amber. In my prior role in the FBI, early in my career, I did a lot of interviewing, and different purpose, to try to get people to confess generally. But Vanessa does a very, very good job in the personal interviews. I mean, she really was exceptional at drawing people out, and she's very, very good. I should have mentioned that. I throw that out there. So, anyway, it's straightforward. I'm sure there'll be some questions at town meeting, but I think it's the right thing to do, and I think the whole will support it.
All right. I know I support it.
I'll move that the board support Article 25.
Second?
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, well, advisory, do you have any?
Marcy, do you want to vote these now, or do you want to wait till our meeting? You're on mute.
Sorry, I think one of our members has to drop off and we're going to lose quorum in
All right,
a couple minutes.
we can do
So
it.
maybe at our next meeting, but
And then we'll have the rest, hopefully the rest of the meeting.
yeah, Tim and Barry will be there as well.
When
But
is your next
thank you,
meeting?
Jim.
Thank you.
We're looking at next week, Kathy.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. That was very helpful.
Okay. All right. So the next item on the agenda is Lisa. Wanted to speak to the CPC articles.
Good evening, everyone. I was here till midnight last night, so it's great to be back again. I should have just brought my sleeping bag. So, Andrew, do you want to start the conversation, or do you want me to just kind of jump in? Happy to do that.
Why don't you just jump in?
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. So I know in watching your last meeting, there was some question regarding one of the line items in the CPC budget. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on this. I think there's a lot going on with CPC that the board's not aware of and why this line item is so important. And I think Mr. Purple reiterated at the last meeting as well that these articles can't be changed on town meeting floor. So let me just say, without these articles passing, you run the risk of some of the projects. We have 4 projects that are still in the mix coming forward to the fall. So, which would be the golf course irrigation, the continuation of the water tower discussion, Trails has kind of reached an issue with their bidding process as well, and Fayville Park for the Recreation Commission. If these don't get funded, then monies don't go into the bucket, which would in turn create CPC having to revote the Affordable Housing Trust article, because that's based on leaving $100,000 in, and if the 57,000, sorry, for the bucket for the housing wouldn't go in, then that number, CPC would have to revote, because that number would change as well. Because with these numbers in, it's like $159,000, I believe, is the number off the top of my head. So, and the annual bond payments, the debt service is paid through this article as well. I know there was some question on the administrative costs. I know, Andrew, you had said that there was only, 2 articles coming forward, but I just wanted to say that through the course of the last year, we have looked at and continue to look at, like I said, there's 4 articles coming forward to the fall. We've talked to all of these people. Fayville Park has been coming since October. The water tower has been on for a year and a half now. So these discussions continue. There's still a lot of work to be done, and there's more work than we can get done. And the admin for this is so important for a variety of reasons. There's historical knowledge. And the admin does more than just attend the meetings. For instance, I'll give you for instance, when Trails first came to us with Phase 1 and Phase 2 of their projects, there was monies left over from Phase 1. They wanted to transfer it to Phase 2. Well, we needed to do a full accounting to go back to see where the monies came from. It was a very time-consuming project. I had things going on in my life at the time. I asked Freddie to do it and also meet with Kat. That was like an 8-hour special project, that was done. It was done well. Everybody agreed on the numbers. They came back, and we're still moving forward in the process. It makes things so much easier, and there's a historical knowledge. We're all fairly new on CPC, and I think we are doing a great job. I think we're making great strides in a lot of different things, including closing out projects. There's a lot of things going on. I know for the PR, for the townhouse and the library, those have been outstanding since 2019 and 2021. We're finally getting to a good point on that, and when that is complete, there'll be monies coming back into the CPC from the library side. So there's a lot of good things going on. The 29,000, I think we get a lot of bang for our buck. Last fiscal year, is another for example. We had left the articles open for the Affordable Housing Trust so we could do a transfer. So, and when it came down to the line for town meeting, you guys, not town meeting, sorry, for the warrant, it was like the last night, and we were still scrambling to get everything done because there was so much language and everything that needed to be done. So we've strived very hard on some of these projects. The committee here, over the course of the last year as well, has created a handbook that's available on the website. We started it when Ben was here. He spearheaded that. He did the first draft. It was amazing, a ton of work. Huge kudos to him. We went over it last summer before the applications came out again, and we tweaked it. You know, our goal is, as you had for this town meeting, you had the warrants, our articles well in advance, you know, and we worked very hard, and we strived as a committee very hard to do that, but we need the admin piece in order to get that done. And again, looking forward to a potential fall town meeting, there's 4 big articles coming forward, that there's a lot of work still left to do. The committee's committed to doing it through the summer, but, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that you did take a vote
Yep.
at your last meeting not to support the article, but I think not supporting the article is very detrimental to the work we do and the possible articles in the
And I can just jump in here, so
Yep.
the vote we took there was very, we took it, it was one of the kind of middle of a late night
I get
vote.
those.
It was, happened very quick, you could say a little bit rash. I think there's some, you know, I was talking with Mark about what would be kind of ordinarily consent articles you would have on it, and, you know, this is one of them, but, so, you know, I think there's ways we can become, you know, more efficient, but I'm also having in mind, you know, the big picture here of trying to manage the overall number of issues we deal with in any annual town meeting, so I'm gonna change my vote and support this article, so I just wanted to offer that, that's my perspective on it. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add before we open up to.
Just one thing, I would just like to say, if anybody has any specific questions, please, CPCs, I am available, happy to, you know, to have these conversations and, you know, hopefully put some concerns that the board members may have.
And just one point that I didn't know when we considered this last was these CPC articles that are in the pipeline for the fall, because I don't recall other times, in my view, it's always been spring, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, we're hoping for a fall because we'd like to move some of these forward. The Trails article in particular, on top of a potential ask for more money, the current articles that we have a sunset clause of the end of this year. So if we don't get these done in the fall, then potentially the monies will, well, the articles will dry up, and we certainly don't want that to happen. Sorry, that was probably a little more than you asked, Andrew.
So can I go next?
Sure.
So I do think the vote last week was rash and quick, but listen, I think we've got to at least talk about the underpinning of that vote and being honest about it. You and I have talked. $30,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but $30,000 could be used for something else if it weren't used for admin, right? So we're just trying to make sure that it really is money that should be spent. There's no doubt that $30,000, Ms. Gillespie does a ton of work, and there's no doubt that she's got a very important background to help you do what you do, so there's no dispute on that at all. The issue is the efficiency sometimes that's lacking as far as getting records updated when they should be, et cetera. I know you have strived very mightily to get old articles closed out, old projects closed out. Andrew Denny and I met with Ben Smith 3 years ago in my office to ask that very thing. And so, because if they get closed out, you always put a contingency, and there's probably money that's going to come back. It may not be huge, but every little bit helps. So I apologize for that vote last week. It was way too rash, but we do want to make sure that the money is appropriately spent and the right person is doing the type of work. We've got a very capable town accountant and assistant town accountant, so I think you probably could move some of what's being done by Freddie to Carla and leave Freddie to do the things that she's really good at. That's just a suggestion. I'm not going to go much further with that. But that was the underpinning of that, because there have been criticisms from department heads about getting requests at the last minute. I think that's improved when I've been told. So hopefully that's going in the right direction. So that's where it's coming from. So anyway, I do think it was a rash vote. Obviously, we need to fund the buckets, and so I will certainly change my vote too.
Thank you. Can I add one thing to that, Andrew, just
Sure.
quickly? So on the open projects, so we've spent a lot of time over the last year going through these. There's 18 projects that are open for about $79,000 roughly, and the problem we're facing is we're working towards that, but there's like 2 different rec projects for Fayville Park, And it's all signage. All 18 of these are signage related, but there's
Has to
still
be a sign that says this is funded by the
by CPC, but we may have another project with Fayetteville Hall, same with trails. So there's a lot of different moving pieces in trying to get the sign off on these. You don't want to put multiple signs. You want to just put one sign. So we are working towards these.
So I've heard that, but why does that preclude you from closing out a project financially?
Because you need to pay for the signs, and the monies are within these articles to do it. So if we close them out, we lose access to those funds, which the signs are part of the project. So we're working really hard towards these, and like I said, out of the 18, we anticipate, again, if all goes well with fall town meeting, by the end of the year, being able to close out a large percentage of these. In the interim, I will use recreation again as an instance. They're working with Ellen and Kristen on the CPC, are working to come up together with the signs we want to use, but we want to make sure we encompass all of the articles, because the last thing we want to do is put a bunch of signs around town multiple times for the same thing. It
Okay,
makes
but
no
the
sense.
sign says the same thing, right? Funded by CPC or something like that?
To some degree, we've agreed on the language. That was, Ellen spearheaded that, so we've kind of agreed on the language, but if you have additional projects, you want the sign to also incorporate the projects as well. You don't want to just say Fayetteville Park improvements. You'd like to know what improvements the taxpayers' funds funded, the basketball court, the upgrades to the park itself, and potentially now a splash pad and dog park. So you want to be able to encompass all of these things on the sign so the taxpayers know what their money went for.
But how much does a sign generally cost? I have no idea.
It's hard to say. It depends. Again, for different things, you want different signs. Like for the townhouse, you would want a very different sign than, a plastic sign or,
But it's $100, it's not $1,000, right?
It depends on the sign, Kathy. I mean, when Historical was doing signs, and again, this is off the top of my head, Grant threw out a number of like $500 a sign. Sure, we could hold out, $1,000 from each of these and close the rest out, but you're still not closing the project because you still have $1,000, whatever.
I understand, but it's getting the money back to be used for something else.
Agreed.
Why can't you pay for the signs out of the admin piece?
Because then we lose the admin piece, and these 4 articles won't make it to town meeting.
Okay, so you need the admin
We
to
do.
do the admin. You don't have any excess money in the admin bucket to be able to
Not,
pay for signs.
again, until we get to the end of the year, I don't know. I mean, I will say that the committee's picked up a bunch of stuff, but, there's still special projects going forward. Last year, Freddie actually did the last month's worth of work because we were out of admin money, and she continued to do the work for us. So,
So I'm not trying to beat you up on this, but it just seems to me like then you should do what you just said, which is reserve enough money in the article to pay for a sign and then bring the rest of it back. Assuming you can do that. Again, I don't know how
There's a process,
CPC
yeah.
works as far as what the state says do, but it just seems to me that you should be able to do that. You shouldn't have to hold up bringing back money just because you haven't funded a sign yet.
well, it's about closing the project out, Kathy. And if you don't have a sign, then the project's not closed out. I mean, it's a good question, and it's something I will bring back, and it's something we'll explore, is if we can just close out partial projects, because you can't bring the money back until it's closed out. So I appreciate that, and I'm certainly willing to explore and see if we can come up with a way to do that.
Again, all I'm trying to do is get the money back in
Nope.
the buckets to use for a
And
different project.
I appreciate it, and like I said, there's $100,000 roughly, for the library. So when that PR is done, it's going to come in a lot less. So those monies are going to come right back. And then, it's going to affect the bonding piece as well when the long-term bond gets done for the townhouse. So, you're going to have, there's money set aside in that as well. And the PRs are going to come in a lot lower, is my understanding. And John Parent has done a great job, and it's taken a lot of time to get where we're at, but it's at Mass Historical now. And, there's now the process in place to get this done.
So while you're here, what's the match we think we're going to get for 26? 15% or so?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I think it's
roughly
15.5.
65,000, 70,000 bucks?
Yeah, so still not a bad return on,
Not a bad return.
and see the stock market today in the last week. So, anyway, thank you. And again, Kathy, I will check into that. I appreciate it.
In the last year, how many projects were closed?
How many projects were closed in the last year?
Yeah.
Well, so we just closed out a project that we had for a GIS mapping. Planning Board just signed the contract on that, so that's going to be closed out. We have, as far as open projects, we have the PRs. We have, the town clerk is still working through the historic records budget there. We have the golf course, which we know isn't going to happen at this point. So that's an open project. The trails is an open project.
But these weren't closed in the last year.
No, they weren't closed in last year. I'm
No,
just
so
trying to
my
explain
question was, in the
why
last year-
some projects weren't. It's not as easy of a question as you're asking me, Al.
Well-
I look at I just talked about 18 different projects that need signs. They're all ready to be closed, but we have to finish the last piece. So if you're looking at what hasn't been closed, yes, there's still open projects as well. I think, to be fair, you have to look at it as a whole versus, just looking at it as one specific article.
I was simply asking how many projects were closed in the last, in the last year?
In the last year, so none.
Okay.
Fair enough, none, but that's not to say that we haven't been working and striving very hard to get that done. So, and they couldn't have been, the majority of them.
I mean, given that, we have projects, correct me if I'm wrong, that are over 10 years old.
Mhm.
I mean, this is the taxpayers' money, and it doesn't make me comfortable that, we're, I choose my words carefully here, but I don't think we have been careful stewards of the taxpayers' money, where, we raised money 10 and 15 years ago, and we can't yet say that we've completed this. That's problematic in my book.
So let me just respond to that. So it is the taxpayers' money, and the taxpayers' money haven't been misused. Those
I have not
funds
said that.
are still there. So, yes, this committee made a strong commitment, Al, last fall, that we were going to get closed out as many projects as we can, and we've made huge strides, and by the end of the year, a lot of these will be closed out. It takes time. It's not as easy as, we have to make sure the conditions of the applications and what town meeting voted are upheld. So I understand your position, I do, and I respect that, but I don't want anybody that's watching this to think that CPC hasn't been working very hard in the last year to close out some of these, and I get they're old. Some of them, I'm not gonna lie, some of them go back to 2010, but it's a matter of a sign, Triangle Park, that's for instance, there's $1,500 there.
Do we really need a sign?
Yes,
No.
it's part of the
It's in the statute says
Yes.
that improvements that are funded by the CPC. And so if you go to other towns, like, you'll notice them. Oh, well, no, funded by the CPC.
Yeah, and that's the point. So, and these are being done. I've actually talked to Mr. Purple about the Triangle Park and coming up with language. We're working on that.
There's some of these around, like some of the tennis courts, pickleball
Yep.
courts have the sign.
Yep, and there will be more. Again, I'm happy to share the list. It actually came from Carla, who did an amazing job, and we just broke it down by signage and ongoing projects. So, but I appreciate the sentiment, and I don't disagree with you that some of these projects should have been.
I'm really struggling with this because, so I drilled a well a little while ago. There's an irrigation well.
Yep.
I had to put a sign on it, and it cost me about $50. Nice professional-looking sign, and it really, took me about 30 minutes. And, to tell me that we can't close out 10 and 15-year-old projects because we can't put up a sign, this has been going on, this hasn't been going on for a year. This has been going on for 3 or 4 years. And it does not give me confidence, and I don't,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. This needs to be addressed, or, the CPC did not want this board supervising it. It was very clear, you went to town meeting, you won your vote.
It wasn't about supervision, it was about appointing. That's what the
Well,
vote at town
that's-
meeting was
Appointing
about.
is supervision. It's,
We'll agree to disagree on that one. But,
so,
fair enough. Al, I
this
understand.
is poor performance, that's all I can say.
Fair enough. Point taken. Thank you. But I just, again, I don't want the public
Sorry,
to
I'm
think that we're
being
not
Mr. Grumpy today.
doing our job, but appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Can I just,
Sure, yeah, well, Marguerite, you want to?
or Tim, do you want to say anything?
I'm just glad to have the explanation of the breakdown, so thank you for having all that.
Thank you.
I'd just like to, one, I wish I had voted the other way, but it was late. We were having, like,
I get it.
group mind thing going on. Okay, but this is also a really good discussion to be having here in the select board meeting, because I think you cannot look in any direction in this town without seeing something that CPC has worked to make happen. Sometimes people don't even know when they come into the townhouse how much CPC money has done that, or the library, or the playing field. There's just a lot of it around, even without the signs, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the admin has a particular skill set you would be really hard put to find in any other human being in this county, that has provided a lot of benefit, so, anyway.
Thank you.
Can I close this out with one positive comment?
We like
Okay,
positive.
but
yes.
This
we're
is-
going to turn it over to advisory too.
Okay, but
Uh-oh, here we go.
this is important. Okay, so, I do agree that a project should not be held up to be closed out because of a sign. Don't labor on the sign, just put the sign up, right? No one's gonna go, oh, that sign's ugly, whatever.
But the sign,
But-
you want it to last
I
time,
know,
Kathy.
But more importantly,
Yep.
I am still so pro CPA funds that I still wish we'd go some point, look at doing the 3%. So,
Would you like to come to our first meeting after town meeting? Happy to have you come and talk to us.
so that's why I went in process. I wish we would do the 3%, so we get 3%, we get 3 times more than the state match, plus the bonus. So we got more money coming from the state to do things we need to do.
Would you like to come to our meeting in May? We'd love to have you.
Mr. Pfeffer, come with me, right?
Absolutely. You're both, again, we open to the
I can dust off my
conversation.
old presentation and redo it.
Yeah,
Okay, all
we're
right.
certainly open to
That's
the
all I wanna say.
conversation, Kathy. I think at the time before, it was, we weren't sure that there was enough time, and I think we do have time now. So, yeah, we would certainly invite you and be happy to have you come.
It's worth a discussion.
Absolutely. All right, advisory, go.
Marcy?
Marcy, you want to start?
Uh-oh, here we go. That sounds ominous.
We can't hear you, you're on mute.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button there. Thank you for the presentation, Lisa. One, I noticed recently when I was in Boston, CPA signs, and I would suggest in the spirit of sort of what Al is saying, there's a lot of smart people over there on CPC, so you probably thought of this, but you might want to just have a generic sign like Boston does that basically says the property received support from the people of Boston for acquisition, creation, preservation, rehab, restoration, the end, and then it just has City of Boston on it. It doesn't go into detail about what it was. So that's one thought.
Thank you.
That might speed up the process. I do agree, like closing it quickly would be helpful. But that's all of my comment or feedback for tonight, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Moving on to Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the article, I mean, that's an easy support. You got to put the money in the buckets, you got to do the things. I do think when we get to the admin, just making sure that the committee reviews the contract, reviews the bids. I would suggest that maybe you reach out to Community Preservation Partners, which is a consulting group that handles CPA for multiple towns, just to get a different perspective, to vet everything, do a full 360 on it. But at the end of the day, it's your decision, but I would suggest getting some more information.
Okay, thank you. And I did look at that, Andrew, and a lot of the things that they do are the technical review. That's the biggest thing they do, is getting the technical review done before it gets to us. So it's kind of doing the work that we as a committee, and Kristen, you can jump in. We enjoy doing that and going through the articles. So when we get to town meeting, we know exactly what we're talking about. But there's so many other things that we have in Freddie's job description, or sorry, I shouldn't say, the admin's job description, sorry about that, and that they wouldn't do. So we would still be under a little bit of a gun. So, but I appreciate that, and I plan to bring it to the committee, because you had brought it up, and again, I appreciate that.
Or just food for thought.
Yep, thank you.
All right, we actually do still have quorum, so Larry, want to go next?
Sure. So I'm also a strong supporter of the CPC, and I do appreciate all of the projects that they're working on. But I do have to agree with both Mr. Hamilton and Ms. Jones that things like signs, really think about how much time we've just spent tonight talking about them. I don't know if it's analysis paralysis or the perfect being the enemy of the good, but it's the kind of thing where you need to get it done and off your list. Otherwise, if we're talking about it here, you're probably talking about it at your meetings rather than talking about new projects and other things. So, I think the committee really does need a bias towards closure so that you're talking about new stuff, not old stuff. I have no arguments with anything else in the articles right now, however.
Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, please, apologies, I had to step out for a second. Lisa, if you spoke to this earlier, but just around the signage, just from my understanding, is the issue about closing the project out that you get the funding for it at that point and get reimbursed? I mean, well, I guess trying to understand what is the issue with the signage and why is it so critical, other than closing a project out?
So the signage is required by CPA in using CPA funds. So it's the final piece because the funding for the signs comes out of the warrant article itself. So, some articles have, as a for instance, $6,000. I'll just use that as an example. We know the signs aren't going to cost that much. And again, we are working towards it. I'm not making excuses. It's on our agenda at every single meeting. Ellen has done a phenomenal job of looking at what other towns do and trying to craft things. But again, it's not as much the language as the sign. You don't want the sign that we
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. My question is probably just very, very basic. Is there, you can't get reimbursed until the sign and the project's complete, or?
It's not even being reimbursed. The monies are within the articles, so we can't close out the articles until the sign is completed.
The only thing I would say is probably not really value added, but just repeating is, getting the signs done, and we're spending a amount of time and energy to do it, and wish you the best of luck getting the signs completed.
Thank you.
Lisa, I thought Marcy's idea was a pretty good one. So I'd listen to what she said as far as what Boston's doing and just have a generic, nice sign and use them.
And I'll bring it back. I mean, the problem is you don't want the sign that you may see in Boston on the townhouse. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, a sign that works for all projects, right, in
Yep.
Southborough, and just 550 of them, and
550 of them, and there's never is an issue.
Like, I know that when we
Fair
did it was funded through ARPA, when Kevin did the.
Beautiful
those
signs.
beautiful signs.
Yes.
Just made a couple calls, boom, 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 and then they're done, It was all very efficient.
I'm sorry? Right, some were waiting for the weather as well. So we are moving forward, and we will continue to, and we will take all of the feedback received here tonight. We appreciate it.
And Brian, we do get interest on those funds, right? Good.
Awesome. Are you guys
Okay.
done with me?
Yeah, I think so. So I move that.
Wow.
I move that the select board support at town meeting Article 22.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All those opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Thank you.
4-0-1.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, Lisa.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Glutton for punishment.
All right. Is there anyone here that wants to speak to the plastic bag citizens petition? So what I'm trying to do is to get back to the practice that we had where people who sponsor citizens petitions, we invite them, give them an opportunity to come say their piece before the select board votes on them. And I have Jack Barron's the sponsor of one of these. I think he's going to be with us by Zoom a week from today, but I'm not, our email exchange is a little ambiguous about that, so. But Mark, I think you reached out to the folks that had their, names on the citizens petition, just didn't hear back?
Yeah, Mr. Hegarty had given me the names of the, I believe, students who were the ones that were involved in creating the citizen petition. So did not hear back, but it offered, said if you're not able to attend this evening, we will be having these discussions on the 17th as well, so.
But they need to understand they're going to have to speak to this at town meeting, so.
There have been.
Somebody will have to.
There have been times, right, where they put something on we've seen citizen petition where somebody goes through all the petition, they get the signatures, and then the moderator says, okay,
We've had 3 or 4 at the end of the meeting, yeah.
Right,
And then no one's there.
That's right.
So
and then
that it dies
fails. That's right.
uneventful death.
I actually like those ones, so I hope they come forward.
Okay.
I know there's pros and
So
cons.
maybe we'll just deal with that at the end when we get to all the rest of the stuff.
Sure.
So the next things I got are operational budget, and I know that's where advisory comes in. And then the consent articles, we try to just vote rapidly on all the like repeat stuff. Zoning articles. At some point, we'll probably take a break, but I think at this point, you want to just keep on going on the operational budget while we're here. Does that sound good?
So you're going line by line?
No. How about this? I think we already covered a lot of it with our last discussion, right? Again, I feel like the operational budget is in a good place. I feel like we've talked about it.
It's in a good place, other than we've got to get to an agreement as far as what we're doing with health insurance for next year, because that is driving this whole ability to bring us out of the override. So we're not there yet. So we can tonight say, the number that Brian's got built into here, we can just say this is what it is, and if that holds, then we can vote on it tentatively based on that, and know that we may have to take another vote if we can't get done what we're trying to get done.
And the other vote would be on the 17th.
Yeah.
All right.
Mark, when do we have to have it finalized for print?
Select Board should be signing the warrant on the 17th, and it should be going to print before the end of that week.
So
Okay.
advisor would have the next night to
So
do
we
their
do
vote.
have, we're going to try to take votes on as many of these as possible, but if there's a couple where there's a blank on the warrant heading into the 17th, that's okay. So do you want to, Kathy, do you want to make a motion that fits what you were just describing?
So I'll make a motion to support the operating budget that's currently in the warrant that reflects a 4.88% year-over-year increase and a 414,000 positive levy balance for the moment.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? Tim?
I'm going to abstain right now.
Okay. Advisory?
I don't think we're going to vote until we have our meeting next week.
Okay,
But wait for all the members to be present.
all right.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so then,
Andrew, is that what you guys wanted to hear? I mean, we love having you here, but we just voted to support 301, the police department budget, so. Okay, fine, I just want to make sure that you know what we just did in case,
you're at 311.
yeah, excuse me, 311, yeah, sorry, 311.
Yeah, okay. So then, maybe we want to, before we go into a phase of the meeting that's going to be a little bit tedious, maybe we take a 5-10-minute recess?
Yeah, can you have the same person do the motion and second?
Yeah, okay.
Recording stopped.
So at this point, where we go through as many articles as possible and vote on them, I first want to kind of go through, this is not the moderator's consent, but just like our own little internal consent, so I just read a bunch of articles here, and if anyone wants to hold them. Otherwise, these are basically articles that are kind of year-to-year repeating articles. The idea would be, if there's no holds, we just have one motion to approve all these.
I would hold 5, because we don't have that.
Okay, so we're gonna hold 5, I won't do that one.
Sorry.
Where's my pen? Okay, so I'm gonna go really slow. If anyone wants to hold it, we'll talk about it separately. Okay, Article 1, acceptance of pilot payments. Article 2, annual borrowing authorization. Article 3, authorized contracts exceeding 3 years. Article 4, salary administration plan. Article 8, OPEB trust fund. Article 15, capital budget existing leases. Article 16.
Hold on.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Capital budget existing.
Existing leases.
Okay.
Article 16, insurance deductible amount. Article 17, retiree.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to hold the, I think I'd like to understand just a little bit more about the insurance deductible.
Okay. Article 17, retiree accrued leave time. Article 18, facilities maintenance fund. Article 19, recreation facility maintenance fund. Article 20, annual authorization of revolving funds. 22, we already voted. Article 23, CPA adjustments. Article 24, CPA transfer to affordable housing trust.
I'd like to hold that just because I've got a couple of thoughts, but I'm
Okay.
not going to throw a monkey wrench spanner in the works.
Okay. Article 26, amend town bylaw definition of dog kennel.
Of what?
Dog kennel.
That's a gym.
That's another town clerk one he probably could have explained. It's pretty straightforward.
Article 29, amend town bylaw tax payment agreements. Article 30,
Yeah, I'd like to hold the 29.
okay. Article 30, amend town bylaw issuance of license. And basically, as
I'd like
Ryan
to
was
hold
explaining.
that one, too.
Okay. So the ones that I've got are Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22 we already voted on, so 23 and 26. So now I'll make the motion. I move that the select board, and you're keeping track of this?
I
Okay.
am.
I move that the select board support at town meeting Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, and 26.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, so now just going down the list here. Article 5, collective bargaining agreements. I don't think we can vote on it until we get the number, right? This is basically, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, an adjustment based on the negotiation with the police lieutenants?
Correct. So this is, so we're, again, the police lieutenants are now a collective bargaining unit, but they do not have a contract. So we're working on the initial contract. We're closer to the end than the beginning. But now it's pretty much down to council review.
Okay, I'm confused. What number do we expect to go into this article?
Their
Their salaries are already in the police budget for both of them, right?
well, the salaries that were in the SAP,
I agree. So
But
those are in there. So what's going to go in here?
I would believe the difference between the value of anything in the contract versus what was budgeted in the budget.
All right, and is that number a 5-figure number? Not a 6-figure number, I hope.
Not a 6-figure number, no.
Okay.
Low 5.
All right, so it's going to affect the budget.
It will impact, yes.
Okay.
All the more reason not to vote on it tonight. Article 6 is the fiscal year budget, which we just took a kind of tentative vote on, right?
You did take a vote on it.
Okay. Article 7, the Water Enterprise Fund. I mean, I think we basically have already,
I think we approved that already.
We
okay.
approved water rates, so in
Yeah.
essence, we've done this, yes.
I don't know what more we would talk
I
about on the
agree.
17th.
Totally agree.
I move that the board support at town meeting Article 7.
Second.
All those in favor?
Wait, did you vote, Tim?
I didn't vote. I mean, I was thinking about it because I was against the water rates, so I'm kind of thinking about my position on this one right now. So right now, I'm going to abstain. for
We
the
can hold
moment.
off if you'd like to.
Yeah, let me think about this.
Is that okay to hold off on that, Andrew?
Well, how about this? We can pencil it in, 4,
And we can always
0, 1. It's a support, and then if you want
Yeah,
to,
that's fine.
okay.
Well, hold on. The water rates are approved, and they're based on this budget. So,
I agree. So, yeah, Tim, I don't know, like, we kind of have already voted this when we voted on the water rates.
well,
Yeah,
and
we-
we
I'm
have de
just-
facto voted on.
Yeah, and I'm maintaining my same position at that.
We can leave
Or
it
no,
as
actually-
401.
Yeah,
I mean,
Just
No
vote
shame in
against it.
that.
yeah, I'll vote against it then. Put me as a
Not to
negative.
try to talk you into it.
No, I
but-
mean, I was debating, should I vote against it? Because I still think that we could have done better on, the position that I had before, I maintain. But, just do 4-1-0.
okay. Article 9 is the capital budget non-borrowing, and the one change that's going to be made is B. I think we can go ahead and assume the advisory committee is going to approve the reserve fund transfer for the facilities van. So then, in place of 9B, you're going to have the fire PPE for 40,000, I think,
Out of ambulance.
out of ambulance.
Correct.
But that was already there, it just wasn't listed, correct?
It's in Brian's he's carrying it in the documents, but it was not in the warrant document.
But it should have been, it just wasn't?
That's correct.
Okay, so it wasn't, we're adding it now because we need to include it, but it wasn't being omitted for any other reason besides.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Well, it's being funded by the Amos funds.
It was an oversight.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood the inclusion versus the omission.
So Kathy, on the police cruisers that are 2 and the handheld portables, does this reflect any gifts from private schools?
Yeah, so if you look at the 2 light vehicles, the number should be
It's 30,000.
50,000. They paid, yeah, it should be 30,000 bucks.
Okay.
So NEC paid 10,000 on one, and St. Mark's bought the second, so that should be 30 instead of 80.
All right. And it has the 2 DPW vehicles, right?
Yes.
13 and 14.
Okay, so we feel like we're ready to vote on this.
I would like to still see this number go down, but
I mean, we could hold off and vote on it on 17th.
yeah,
Well,
because advisory might, number one, we need them to come back with B coming off officially, because that's not until they vote, right?
I'm fine with that.
So we'll wait on that.
Wait on 9.
okay, fine.
Okay, Article 10. Capital, water capital budget, non-borrowing. It's got the smart water meters, RFP prep and evaluation for the 70,000, the Terra tank, engineering improvements, various main improvements, and then the clearing and grubbing cross country water main routes. This is what stuff that Bill talked about us about, like.
What is
3
grubbing anyway?
What is grubbing?
Thank
Removing lines?
Vine.
Vines, yeah.
Is that interswappable with pigging?
With what?
Pigging. So
Pigging?
Sorry, you asked, in my previous role, one of the things you do in a oil refinery is you pig the lines, and there's something that has like this aggressive teeth thing that goes down the line to get rid of the scale and buildup within that line. It's called pigging the line.
That's internal to the pipe. This is the environment.
Okay,
What's over the pipes.
got it.
Okay, Article 10. I feel like we're ready to vote on it. I move that we support a town meeting Article 10.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Okay, Article 11. This is the borrowing for the looping of Presidential and Fisher. So this is the 0%
0%.
interest loan, but was, still needs to be appropriated by town meeting. I move that we support at town meeting Article 11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Was that unanimous?
No, that was 4-1.
4-1.
Article 12,
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that one for a minute.
okay, yeah. It's-
I think we should consider separating D and E out. Those are big dollar items. And I think they deserve their own.
I totally agree. I
discussion.
thought we had separated them into separate articles. I totally agree.
should be contingent upon that.
What?
Contingent upon a debt exclusion, D and E.
Agree, because unlike the roof vote, where if we didn't specify it was going to be excluded, right? On purpose, in case it failed, then you could still do it. Here, we're certainly not going to borrow $25 million within the cap.
Correct.
I'm okay with that. So then,
So Brian, why would you not have, oh, anyway, I do agree there should be a separate presentation, totally agree. Should be a separate article, it's too big to bunch in here. But why would you not have said that this has got to be debt excluded? Because it has to be. You agree? Okay.
Same with Article 14, right?
so just
That's
before
right.
we,
So this would then become 13 and everything else would be bumped
Well-
up one, or this, however, I'll leave it.
all right, so how about this?
Just call it point two.
What about with, now, there's still the Atwood tank remediation that people had some questions about. Do we want to just hold off on taking a vote on Article 12? Let's assume that the Atwood tank remediation would still stay in there, right? And then it would be like item D of Article 12?
I don't know that Atwood Tank should be a separate article. It's to be bunched in this, given.
I don't know if you can't do Article 12 have the same article, but just add the language that D and E are contingent upon also a successful ballot for a debt exclusion.
But if we're going to truly do a presentation, which I agree with, Al suggested, Marcy agreed, then make it a separate article, so then you get up there and do a presentation.
This is a lot of money.
Yeah, it could be its own.
And
So
it's,
do you want to have,
Two separate articles, correct?
I'd say
D
that
is
you
its
want
own,
the
E
roads
is its
and
own?
sidewalks in
D
one
and E
article.
together.
yeah, I think you can do
Huh?
roads and sidewalks
One
together.
presentation, both of them in that article, both the roads and sidewalk.
Okay.
And then Atwood, we just haven't talked about Atwood. Neither is advisory.
So separate article.
yeah,
Let me do this. So I'll move that we approve Article 12, items A, B, and C, which actually,
okay, I'll second that.
I have a question. Isn't the technology upgrades not limited to Trotter? Aren't those the numbers for the school-wide, from the
I think you're
school-wide
right.
presentation
Yep.
number?
I think
It
you're
is. That was all of the schools.
And I don't think that the
And
security is just
neither are the
Trotter either.
security
The
upgrades.
security's all the schools too.
Yeah. So I think both of those are not supposed to have Trotter written in front of them.
Oh, okay.
It should be Trotter or Woodward.
No, it was,
No, it was all
school
of them.
security upgrades and school technology,
it,
or you could say K to 8. but
it,
All right, I'm
Or
looking
pre-K
at,
day,
I'm looking at
excuse me.
Brian's list.
the schools, the Trotter security upgrades, that was, if I recall correctly, all of the schools.
I think
Yeah.
so too.
Because there's supposed to be two, and then they added a third, or fourth.
Yeah, it was everyone, but I think it was included, it would be all four, right? It'd be all four in the K through 8.
So Mark, can you
Setting.
just clarify
Yes.
what's included and word it right? So that.
Yep.
But I think Tim's right. I think
Yeah, the
it's all-
security was all of them. The technology, I'm not sure.
Technology was,
I think it was all of them.
all of them as well, because we had,
May not
we
need
had
as much
explicitly
then.
discussed Neary's technology was portable.
Yep.
So how about this, Al? I don't remember whether I seconded your motion, but I would withdraw it if I did. Then,
Do you want to just hold off on these?
or how about this? We could vote to support Article 12,
A, B, and C, striking the word
no,
trial.
A, B, and C, subject to getting a more accurate description of items B and C. And then we'll just see it in the next draft we see.
That's fine.
Okay, so I move that we support at town meeting items A, B, and C of Article 12, subject to, in the next draft of the warrant, having a more accurate description of items B and C.
I would add, providing they
Second.
cover all the schools.
Why even take the vote?
Yeah,
Wait, just-
it's already, it's,
You're gonna vote on Atwood next time?
All right,
Vote again?
I'm trying to get as much done as possible.
I know, but that's a lot of changes to make.
All right, we'll just forget it.
But in the next draft, we will have D and E separated out into a separate article, subject to debt exclusion.
And the D should lay out the streets that includes, because that's already
Yep.
defined.
What?
You're
So
talking about E?
Item D,
Oh.
the 2.7.
Oh, you're right.
Is
Sidewalks.
for those four roads, those 4 sidewalks that have already been,
Yes, Richards,
Yeah,
Woodland.
yeah.
He's got the roads pretty much
Yeah,
back
just,
too,
you know.
so the presentation should include all that, right?
I mean,
Well,
we can
the-
list that
the
detail, I mean, we
22
still don't have the summaries.
It's going to cover more than just the roads that.
Yeah, but
just-
he can at least say for this year, we're only gonna borrow 6 or whatever the number is, and these are the roads we're gonna do, if people wanna know, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, the first
Now,
tranche.
The CIPC
Oh.
recommendation is a new thing for this. Is that going to apply to all of them or just
I guess we didn't talk
the roads and sidewalks? You see that? Where
Yeah,
it's-
okay, so, this new draft reflects, Mark, do you want to speak to
Yeah,
this?
this came up last night at the Capitol meeting.
Mm.
There was a question from, I forget which Capitol member, or whether it was the chair, had asked about, would it be possible for capital items that go through CIPC to put their recommendation, below Select Board and Advisory Committee's recommendation? It seemed fairly innocuous. I had talked with the chair. I thought it was going to come up tonight. I guess it didn't. So,
Yes, it did.
It did.
did it? Well, okay,
So we're okay with it?
so we're good.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I
They
think
did the
it's a
work.
Great idea.
All right.
Yeah,
They deserve the credit. It worked.
Okay,
yep.
Okay, so you're
Back
gonna
to-
add the CPEIC vote on all the capital?
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll vote on Article 12 at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Article 13, pay and classification study.
This is our obligated one that we do,
Yes.
Every 3 years.
okay.
Okay, I move that we support at town meeting what is currently Article 13 in the draft.
Second.
All those in favor, aye. Okay,
Go ahead,
it was 5-0. Okay, the Trottier roof replacement.
I didn't get a chance to put the number in.
You don't have a chance to put the number in, okay.
You're avoiding it probably.
No, the number is
5.7?
Well, I ran out of time.
6.3,
this
right, or 6.8?
5,
The full number?
We have to approve the
Okay.
full number.
5,350,000.
Doesn't sound right.
That's not
That's
the
our
full
portion,
number.
I think.
The full number is like 9, right?
Yeah.
41%. So
All right.
Brian, do you have the full number?
How about this, we just save this to the next meeting once we get the correct
That's
number?
fine. Okay.
And,
I think that should have the debt exclusion.
Yes, that has to be debt excluded, so.
okay, so that needs to be in the article?
I believe so.
how many debt exclusions are we approving at this?
A
The
number.
roof, that roof. we had-
That
Sidewalks
roof,
and
Neary
roads.
roof, and then the 2 roads.
There were 4 on the
As far,
sheet.
Neary roof is already done, so as far, and we didn't do that as a debt exclusion at the meeting,
Correct.
but it will be on the ballot. So on the ballot, you will have the Neary
5, I
roof,
think.
the Trottier roof, the roads and sidewalks, right? Is that it, Brian? As far as new debt exclusions in the May election, okay.
I don't know, here.
Okay.
We had the near, yeah, there'll be 4.
Article 15, we already voted for, and just one, I've had a comment like, do we even need to do this? Do we really need to vote to appropriate money for leases that we've already signed that we're contractually obligated to?
I think we
Yes.
do.
We
Because
did it
because
every
you're not
year.
technically congratulated, you can get out of it every year, if you wanted to.
Okay, Article 16, the insurance deductible amount of
This is kind of a
$3,000.
silly one, but
It is indeed.
this is an opportunity to maybe
Oh,
save a little bit of money and simply make the insurance deductibles come out of the reserve fund and bump the reserve fund up a bit. And, you know, I've had questions about, you know, whether we have the appropriate deductibles to begin with versus our insurance costs.
Well, not only that, you don't know how many times a year you're going to use those deductibles, so it's a guessing game anyway.
Right, so it's no different than the reserve fund.
I agree. So,
So we could reduce this by 30,000 and add 20,000 to the reserve fund and save $10,000, or hopefully save $10,000. And I mean, our history with the reserve fund is that it is very, very rare that we use even half of it.
This is,
Although this year
this is an article that every year will keep carrying over.
Correct.
If it's up to me, it should be in the operating budget. We should put it in the benefits or insurance section or something like that, but.
I've had a question about why we do this as an article each year also. Brian, do you have a?
I think it's just been custom and practice.
and it does carry over. This doesn't close out. If you put it in the budget, of course, I don't know, I think the whole
Like,
thing
this
is.
isn't every year, Brian, did we spend the 30,000 from this year or last year?
Wow.
Yeah.
This year so far?
So the reality is if we have another hit, you're going to be going to the reserve fund anyway.
Or,
So,
or interdepartmental transfer with benefits?
Right, one of the two.
We've already spent, this is only March, and we already spent the whole thing.
Is this all mailboxes,
no.
No,
Vehicles?
Vehicles.
So is this
potholes?
something that if
Potholes.
it's appropriated and it's not spent, it just goes back to free cash? Or it's
No,
just,
no,
it's an article?
it's an article, it stays.
Right.
So that it's,
So we're replenishing it with what we're doing. And he's saying we've already used up what we put in last year, so this would put the 30K back in it.
So if we put it in the operating
What's the
budget,
balance of the
used, it
fund?
would go back.
Pardon?
$2,500?
No, there's $2,500 balance in the fund?
Yeah, so we've already used up all the fiscal year '26.
No, I'm confused because you just said that this rolls over
It
and,
does, but we've already used it.
If there's
It does
anything
roll over,
left.
but we've used
so are
it.
you suggesting that
There's
the
nothing to
balance
roll.
coming into the year was zero?
No.
It was 1,500.
And then we added 30 to it from the vote last year, and we've had several
29,000.
claims, including that vehicle that rode down the
So
hill or whatever.
if we're treating this effectively as a revolving fund, then there's no way to run a railroad.
so why couldn't we just put it in the operating budget, right? No?
You could, it just doesn't carry over, that's just fine. I think it's-
Well, it sounds to me like we're doing that
We
anyway.
use it anyway.
I would say,
um,
my suggestion was leave it in now, but we should look at an analysis on what our deductible costs are in the history and figure out what a good amount there, and then that should go into the operating.
Yeah, I mean, we may want to have a higher deductible.
Well, I was gonna say, you gotta be careful of the analysis too, because your deductibles have changed, right? So you may say, well, we didn't spend this much historically, but yeah, but the deductible, we may have had as many claims, but
Or number of claims,
sure,
right?
Yep.
Whatever it is.
You could look at it that way,
Okay,
too.
We average
Sure.
28,000, okay, let's
Yeah.
put 30 in and operating, and if we have a really bad year, you go to
Right.
reserve fund, if we have a good
So I
year-
can get, so it, the deductibles, I can do 4, auto claims for 1 deductible for property claim.
And it sounds like it does meet reserve fund criteria. We wouldn't have expected it for the accident, right?
Yep.
So I'm happy with what Al said. Boost up the reserve fund and be done with it, knowing that if we've got a claim, we're going to make a reserve fund transfer.
I like it.
And it's also
We
not time.
we ought to ask advisory what their thoughts are on that particular subject, given that they're the guardians of the reserve fund.
Here's my,
There she is.
Hi, guys. I am listening. I was just off camera. I agree with what's being discussed in terms of this article and moving the money and having the reserve fund transfer instead. So We can poll others on the call. Andrew, I think you've already chimed in. Do you have anything to say?
Well, I thought what you were suggesting, Andrew, is just prove it and then
Yeah.
you're gonna study a little bit more
If
for
we
next.
can do it right now, I mean, if we can do it by next week, then it's okay, figure out what,
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
forecast what we think is a healthy, or conservative amount from an operating budget perspective. Put it in the operating budget somewhere. Benefits, I would think, Brian, insurance or something? And then,
Okay.
I think we're making, it's too hard. It sounds like it's $30,000. That's what we spent last year, it's what we're spending this
but I
year.
still think it needs to be its own standalone article.
I agree. So I think Al's idea is the way to go, is let's get a $10,000 arbitrage out of this. Let's boost up the reserve fund by 20 and take this out.
You guys are saying two different things, right?
No,
You're saying,
I'm saying leave some in the budget so they don't have to come to the reserve fund. Only come to the reserve fund if they spend over the 30.
Okay, we are saying two different things, so I don't care.
I just don't want to have to call a meeting every time there's a 200, somebody just backs into a post.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll put it in the operating budget, we'll put it under benefits, we'll remove the article. Right?
Sounds good to me.
Put it under
Okay.
insurance expense.
Okay, that sounds good. Sorry, I misunderstood as well.
no, I think you understood right. I think there was just
Okay,
differences of opinion.
thank you.
Shouldn't have added numbers.
All right, that was my question.
Okay.
All right, Article 21 is the home rule petition for the all alcohol license for Costco. I think we support this, right?
Oh, solely.
I move that we support at town meeting what's Article 21 in the current draft.
Second.
All those in favor? And then we voted on 22, we voted on 23, we voted on, you wanted to hold.
We didn't vote 24.
So,
See, 24 is the transfer to Affordable Housing Trust, right?
right. I'm not gonna make a big fuss over this, but, there are just like a dozen places where the bylaw says we have to adhere to state law, which is kind of a meaningless statement, because we have to adhere to state law. And it's one of those things where when you start putting references in multiple places, if things change, all of a sudden it gets messy. Andrew, you're a lawyer, you probably understand this better
So
than I.
this is in Article, I agree with you, but where is this in Article 24?
So if you look at, and I'm gonna get in big trouble here, I'm
So
sure.
this is a really long article.
Page 32.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it here real quick, but, okay, yeah.
Page 32.
So, yeah, if you look at it, it's smattering, says consistent with the MGL C 44B, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, yes, the trust has to do that, so, if,
So we don't have to say it.
no, in fact, and it gets uglier, because suppose 44B, section 5B sub 2 changes. Which interpretation are we supposed to adhere to?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that's more of an issue with where you're making new bylaws where, and
Who
there's,
put this whole thing in there? Who did
CBC.
it? CBC?
Yeah. This is I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the same language that was done the last time they transferred money out into the trust.
It probably is, but
Yeah,
it doesn't.
I think it's exactly the same as was done last time.
I'm not, I think it probably is, but I think, I think this is bad drafting, not, the intent is fine, but the drafting is, is problematic.
So Mark, can you ask Jay Tellerman if we can change it to just say, per MGL, we do this? Whatever relevant sections have.
Yeah, I can, like I said, Jay still has to take a run through this.
Yeah, I just asked him about it, because this is,
Specifically simplify the call-outs of the subsections and just reference MGL.
you don't even have to reference MGL, we have to abide by Mass General Law.
okay, so we'll see if we can get that cleared up.
Is it superfluous?
Yeah, sorry, I know I'm getting in trouble here.
No.
Okay, Article 25, we already voted. That's the change from town clerk from elected to appointed. Article 27, accepting an easement for Willow Street. About an easement that's about 872 square feet. it's a little bit more than that. I mean, this,
What article number is that?
Article
27?
27, right, this is
Page 33.
related to an improvement that Bill is doing under,
It's the culvert.
yeah, exactly.
What's he taking? Or what is the one?
Yeah?
Shouldn't, I would want to see a amount not to exceed in this. Because we're authorizing the purchase or eminent domain or whatever, or donation, but we're not authorizing an amount not to exceed in the purchase.
Okay.
Sufficient funds, I mean, that could be $1 billion, or it could be.
So this is the language that council came up with. I am not aware, and I could be wrong, or we can have Mr. Cundiff just correct that. I don't believe there's money involved.
Okay.
I remember
Wanna
him
just
saying
hold on
that
this?
before.
I'm sorry, what?
I remember him saying that before, that this was just an easement.
Correct,
Being demoed
right.
for $0, but I like Andrew's point.
Yeah,
is
Yep.
because
we shouldn't need to
So if that's
authorize
it, then we
you
probably
to
don't need the last piece of that.
Purchase or eminent domain. Can be
Yep.
deleted.
I wanted the board to have language tonight to at least look at, because this is the only one we didn't have it for. So, we can refine that.
I move that we approve Article 27, subject to the town having no financial commitments to actually spend money.
Maybe we should just wait to see the language.
Zero cost. So I second.
So you don't want to wait to see the actual language? I mean, okay, I'm okay with that.
I can go
Mark,
either way.
Mark will work with Jay.
Yes.
And we can always revote it if you see it later and you don't like it, so.
let's just wait. I mean,
This is
we're
fine.
voting anyway.
So Al made the motion. Did anyone second?
I did.
Okay, all those in favor?
What are we gonna?
I thought we weren't voting.
Oh, well,
For the easement?
Yeah.
yeah, we're voting in
I'm happy
favor
to
of the
vote for
easement,
it.
subject to not spending any money.
Right, so I'm happy with what he said there.
Okay, so then,
We approve it as
But
long
I'd
as it
rather,
doesn't cost
I'd rather
anything.
wait to see the final language.
Okay. So now we're waiting.
We'll wait.
we'll just wait until we see the language. All right.
Yeah, I'm comfortable waiting.
And I would double check that we wouldn't need any special counsel or other
Yep.
legal fees.
Okay,
And this one does require a two-thirds.
You would double check what?
That this would
Could
be
it be-
included in
Even at
Jay's
zero?
fee. You wouldn't need additional
Yeah,
external
the-
counsel.
that would be covered under the,
Normal,
It is.
what?
The
It
acquisition.
is, everything's covered
That
under
was only
that
if there's
code.
money involved.
Why would it be?
all right, I think I
Yeah,
see the
this would
finish
be-
line.
This will be fine.
I think I see the finish line. we're
Marcy
getting
is still with us too, my God.
Keep going.
Article 28 is the change to the town bylaw about fines for people who throw snow into the street after DPW plows.
No, it's not after, it's at all.
You're right, you're right. I'm okay with it.
Me too.
I move that we support a town meeting Article 28.
Second.
Mr. Cundiff wants this, right? He's
Yeah.
the one that,
He's
Yeah.
requested it.
I think this is gonna be, so,
yeah, I
I'll
can see
give you
this
my
one causing a
perspective.
lot of discussion. Is this a problem? Is that why he wants this done? People do this
I've
regularly?
definitely seen this.
Regularly?
I think the problem is that you're seeing duplication of effort from the plow crews after they've gone through and people are,
it's
you know,
it's worse
pushing
than that. So
swatters. I
They're
mean,
putting it in the sidewalks.
my perspective is, I clear about a quarter mile of sidewalk every snowstorm. And, you know, the people who clear their driveways put piles this high. And, I really go two different ways. I mean, you gotta put the snow someplace. And I spent a winter plowing snow, and you don't know where the sidewalks are. If it was just the fire hydrants, I'd be real supportive. But, you know, quite literally, almost anybody who had their driveway plowed in that big snowstorm would be and had a sidewalk, would be in violation of this. So, you know, I understand believe me, when I have to snow blow through a 5-foot drift, it ain't fun. But, I've also got a little sympathy for the plow drivers, the private plow drivers.
So the bylaw now is simply just the hydrant.
Yeah.
So the only change here is just eliminating the hydrant and replacing operation of any fire hydrant with use of the public way or utilities within the public way.
So a sidewalk is a public way.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Any,
And,
any part of the, thing could be a public way.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
Right, so it's-
Yeah,
I'm with Al, I think it's a little loose, and also it doesn't define how the penalty is decided on. Speed 50 or no more than 200 for each such violation. Who decides on the amount and what is the criteria?
I think you're looking at them.
All right, how about this? You want to just, we hold, and then, this is not, I can work with Bill too. Right?
Can you
Wordsmith this.
clarify how big of a problem it really?
So here's the
And
main.
I'm sure this year has been.
The main evil that this law is addressing, which is, for example, Woodland Road, right? So that's the street that, going back and forth to work, I would take, it's big, it's a main thoroughfare. The DPW comes and clears the road, and then 8 hours after it clears the road, 9 hours, there's clearly from one property, there's a like spray of snow that is placed back into the road so that when you're driving and you're trying to maintain you reach a certain speed where you're gonna be, it can cause a spin out and stuff, and then there's enough of it where you do that enough times, you need to have the plow come back and re-plow the road.
I guess,
But
So,
I haven't thought too much about the
biggest
sidewalk
offender of this
issue.
is in fact the town. Because, when they plow the roads, they often cover the sidewalks and then, they don't clear all.
I wasn't actually focusing on the sidewalk. I mean, the main thing here is just the road. People who
Is he
shovel.
focused on the sidewalks, or is he focused on the roads, or both?
What I'm offering to do is, between now and the next meeting, I'll just meet with
Okay.
Bill, and we have another draft of this
Yeah.
then.
And find out truly what the problem is that
Yeah,
he's trying to
yeah.
solve.
If it's the photo that they post, it's the road, so if that's the way, Andrew, when you meet with him, maybe
Yeah.
refine public way to public roadway or something like that.
Public road.
Yeah,
Okay.
if that's the direction, I would be more supportive of that.
Okay. All right, so we'll hold on that. Article 29, tax payment agreements and issuance of licenses. I know, Brian, you and I were talking about this earlier today. Do you want to explain them?
Is this the
Article 29.
agreement to hold licenses and permits?
Okay, so Article 29
No, this is the tax payment
is,
agreements.
Tax payment agreements?
yeah,
Yes, this is something that I don't think is too old from the state that allows you to do this. So it's really just applies to tax liens in the town, meaning that we probably have about 30 tax liens going on, unfortunately. People don't pay their taxes on time. So unfortunately, what we have to do is put a lien on the property. It eventually goes to, if they still don't pay it after some various machinations, it eventually goes to land court if they still don't pay it. Thankfully, it hasn't reached this point too many times in my career, but it then goes to land court to foreclose the property. So we'd like an opportunity, or I'd like a tool to use where maybe we can head some of these off. There are some cases I think we probably could have got rid of if there was some flexibility as to.
So you're trying to get flexibility to try to work out a.
A payment plan, yeah.
Okay.
That sounds
Basically, right now, I have no authority to do that. Pay it,
I think that's
don't
a
pay
great
it,
idea.
we take you to court. I don't want to do
So
that.
adopting this will give you the flexibility to negotiate a payment plan.
Yes.
Can you, and it says waiver of up to 50% of the interest, so you can, a payment plan plus waivers of fees instilled over time?
Yes, yes.
And interest is,
So land court can do that too, by the way. We can go to land court and they can order us to waive fees and court fees, et cetera.
when it says interest though, what specific interest are we talking about? What's, on a late fee or?
No, on their principal, if they owe $5,000 in taxes, They pay the state tells us what to charge for interest, it's 8%.
And it's a high rate.
It used to be higher, it used to be 16%. They lowered it to 8. But that accumulates over years, and this would allow to waive some of that.
So we're charging, the state could charge up to 16% on,
It's not the
They
state, it's
used to
us.
charge, it's us, you have to, because that's what the state
State
tells.
law tells you what the rate is.
Yeah, it's
So-
very defined.
we could charge somebody who's behind on their taxes 16%.
Not anymore.
8%.
8% now, yep.
That's,
Yep.
and then we could do an even 50% of that 8% is what this is
Correct.
saying? So we could go down to 4%.
Well, no, you could waive, it's
It's
dollar
the
amount.
outstanding
So,
balance.
yeah, if you owe 10,000 in interest, you could waive 5,000,
Do you,
50% of it.
Brian, do you find these are
What is
people
that,
that are like hardship cases or absentee landlords or probate or what's happening?
No, a lot of them are life events. Some are people getting older and some stuff happening, but a lot of them are life events too. A divorce, that nature, a job loss. It
Do you
happens.
have a small grace period when someone doesn't make a payment on time before the interest starts accruing? 5 days, 6 days?
Very small window.
Okay, and then it automatically accrues?
Yep.
Right? On anybody, I don't care who it is.
Yep.
Okay.
How many of these properties exist today?
There's
30.
probably about 30, yeah. There's not a ton
It's a lot.
in town.
30 of the
I mean,
6,200?
Yeah,
Or, well,
30 of, well,
3,000.
3,200, 3,300, yeah.
How fast do you put the tax lien on the property when someone doesn't pay tax?
We have to allow the year to close, so fiscal '25 is closed. We have to do a follow-up note, well, we have to do several follow-up notices before you can do it. And so it's probably like a 6-month process. And then you put the lien on, and then you proceed to give a little window. I like to try to send out as many notices to the people as possible, so they get, so they have an opportunity to maybe pay it before. I try to always pitch it, I'm trying to save you money, so
This
please.
is what you would recommend doing to give you the flexibility to try to deal with this out of court,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
Me too.
Me
I
too.
think it's a very good idea.
Okay, I move that the board support at town meeting Article 29.
Second.
All those in favor? And then Article 30 is,
Yeah, the issuance of licenses.
So this is something that's pretty I actually thought the town of Southborough had this until I went back through the clerks.
Town council recommended.
Yeah, and then town council recommended for a case in the last year, and we found out we hadn't adopted it, and he recommended, and I totally agree, he recommended implementing this. This is common among communities. So if you own a business and you don't pay your business taxes, we can withhold any license that you're trying to get. Seemed common sense. So if you're trying to get a building permit for your home and you haven't paid taxes, we can hold your permit.
You can pull it too, right? Revoke or suspend.
Yes, yes.
If it only said building permit, I'd probably be in favor. This strikes me as the kick a guy when he's down by law.
Right, can we do this again? So do what's here, then let's talk about whether to narrow it. So someone doesn't pay some type, I thought you said business tax.
Yes, so personal property tax. So if you don't pay your personal property tax.
What's that got to do with your home?
Oh, no, it doesn't. No. There's separate scenarios that could happen. So if you owned a home and you went to do a renovation, a building permit, you could hold that. Or typically it would be holding it, and they probably would pay it.
Okay, now I'm still confused. What's a home got to do with a personal property tax?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But if you had a personal property tax, and for some reason you needed some type of permit in town, if you did need a permit, we could hold that and make them pay personal property tax.
Okay, but if I have a business and I have furniture and I pay personal property tax, right? And then individually, I want to add on my house. You're saying you would conflate those two?
No.
No,
No.
but if your
I wouldn't
house-
combine, no, because that's two separate.
But if your house was in arrears on taxes, then you could deny a building
Okay,
permit.
okay,
Yes.
that
You
I
could-
get.
You could deny
That's mostly what it would be, I anticipate, is
Well,
building permits.
But it says certain local licenses or permits, so,
Mm-hmm.
we could take away somebody's business license.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not in favor.
Was it-
If you left it as building permits, I'd be okay. But, as I say,
And I think you have to adopt the statute as is, pretty sure.
So Jay Tellerman said we ran into a problem not having this adopted with the case.
We did an auto case, right? I think Gene Novak was having an issue with it.
Was this the one on
It was
Turnpike?
Gene Novak, and it
Yeah.
was on Turnpike.
The
Were
one that
you
we don't know
involved in
about?
that? I seem to remember your name being involved with that, actually. This was probably 6 months ago? On Route 9, there was an issue with that.
This may have been the case that came before select board and then went to zoning and planning and is still spinning around for the Class 2 license.
Pratt Automotive,
But
okay.
that's
Yeah.
a tax issue?
Yes.
With
they
the
hadn't paid
with the
their-
owner.
Yes, the
Okay.
owner hadn't paid, right.
Really?
They were in arrears, yes. So Jay said, he recommended using this, but we couldn't because we didn't adopt it.
So the weird thing about what this is saying to me is if, let's just say, there's somebody that's elderly having problems with their taxes or whatever, and then they end up, their family takes over, they couldn't fix up the property to be able to sell it to pay for the taxes if you can't get a building permit with this on the books. So it's kind of like, I don't know what would happen in that situation, but you couldn't do what you would need to do to be able to pay the bill in the sale to get everything all current.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring it forward then. This is discretionary too.
It is
We don't
discretionary.
have to do it.
It is discretionary.
So I wouldn't, a case like that, I wouldn't.
It permits the town to do something,
permits
but does not mandate the town to do something, right?
So going back to the example that Jay apparently used, the owner of that property is not the entities that held the business licenses. They were all separate. You had an owner who leased the property on a master lease, and then that person did subleases. So why would you take a license from one of those businesses if it's the owner that's not paying his
You
real estate
probably
taxes?
wouldn't. I don't think we got very far in that. So he may not have known that, or it was right at the beginning, I said, we don't have the authority.
Well, the fact that it's discretionary is important to me.
Where does it say that? I don't see the word discretionary in this at all. So unless it's in General Law 40 subsection 57 that says discretionary.
I don't think the omission
It
kills it,
says
though. I
permits
don't-
the town to deny.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's,
Do you want to just hold off on this and we'll just, at the next meeting, we'll have some more answers for this?
okay,
All right, but I don't know what answers we're going to get.
Okay, so now we want to move to the zoning bylaws?
Is that what's left?
All right. Here's the quick overview on the zoning bylaws. So I attended the planning, Marguerite and I attended, oh, actually, Tim was there too.
Yeah.
We were at the planning board meeting. In my view, let me know if you disagree, the one that we should, that's the most important is the amendment to uses allowed in the industrial park district, right? The rest of these are pretty non-controversial.
Famous last words, but yeah.
Well, definitely amending the zoning bylaw to remove references to Shop C and make them references to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Sat, yes.
And there's a highly technical amendment to there was an error.
There was like a Scrivener's
Yeah,
error.
Scrivener's error in the MBT community statute. And then the sign bylaw, this is one that was, recommended by the Tricentennial Committee that allows temporarily
The banners.
banners, right? Anyone want to talk much in detail about that?
No.
Nope, I'm fine with
Okay,
all
so how
three of
about-
those.
None of those were substantially updated today, right, Mark? All those are pretty much what they were.
Which ones?
The ones we just talked about, Shop C, just set, MBTA.
Yeah, all those are the language that came forward as final from planning board
But I
for the
mean,
hearing
they
process.
weren't really substantially talked about. to be changed from last night. I think they're pretty much what
Yeah.
was written.
So then.
Yeah, they didn't look that much different than what I was carrying.
At 31, there was a discussion about it, and then no changes were made.
I want to say something about 31, but the other ones I think we're fine with. And planning board is not meeting until the, whatever you said, the 23rd. So we're done. They're done. This is what's going into the,
Yeah, okay, so I move that the board support at town meeting Article 33, 34, and 35.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, which number?
33,
33,
34,
34, and 35.
Shopsy,
Yes.
MBTA, Scriveners, and
I'm a
the
yes.
so
banners.
it's 5-0.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, can we go back to the IP district?
We want to start with ADUs first, just to do the first.
Yeah, let's just on the ADUs. I did follow along this last night. It is removing language from the zoning code that is basically inconsistent with the new state law that allows ADUs as of right? So for example, like the last part, if you go to the adaptive reuse bylaw, it says one of the allowed things you can do when you adaptive reuse a historical building is to make an accessory dwelling unit, but you need to get a special permit, so it just removes that. And I believe that the 1,200 square foot figure in here is a little bit more generous to homeowners.
Well, by right,
Yes,
but you could get more by special permit today.
yes. So, and that was, I believe, really the ZBA requesting that.
They did.
I am in favor of this. I don't know if anyone else has any questions about it.
I would just add the one thing that Jack Bartolini did bring up yesterday, which I found interesting, was that right now with the way that the current process is, you could make a single family into a multifamily, one unit into a two-unit building, the way it's currently written, and that loophole closes.
Yeah. Okay. So I move that we support at town meeting Article 31.
Second.
All those in favor? So Article 32, this one's a little complicated. Generally, I'm in favor of it, okay? I think what the planning board did is this is an update to the allowed uses that brings it forward, like the current bylaw is from like 1993, right? I'm okay, though, if we just wait to vote on this until the next meeting, until we've had a little bit more time to carefully study it. Or even just be at town meeting. Just because it's a fairly there were some changes, formatting changes that are significant that we just got at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think people should feel comfortable not having to vote on it tonight if they hadn't really read it.
So,
Can I add some context here as far as this one
Yes,
goes?
please, yep.
Okay, so everybody remembers Bob Buckley from the vote last October for Costco, right? He was the attorney for Atlantic that is so experienced in zoning from Reamer Bronstein. So he took a look at this as far as one of the initial drafts and sent the planning board through Ms. Braccio some proposed changes. To the planning board's credit, they took those changes, and I believe they made about, I think they accepted about 80% of his proposal. Apparently, he's done this with other towns and did it pro bono, just said, do you want me, I'd like to suggest changes, so they took them. So I feel pretty confident about this, given what he did.
No, I did.
I don't know about
too.
the other 20%. One thing, it came at the very last, so she said it was just too late to do it. But I do feel pretty good that he's looked at this, and what we've got in front of us reflects a lot of what he suggested to do to tighten it up.
one of the big discussions last night at the meeting was data centers are a new entity that weren't there in the language from when the emphasis was on biosciences. So the issue was, are data centers too complex and they should be a separate warrant article? And I think the discussion finally ended up with no, include the definition in here, and you will see, I think, in the early part of it, when it says Article 32, to see if the town will vote to amend the provisions of Section 174-9, special permit requirements by adding a new subsection K, data centers, used by special permit by planning board. And I think they did a good job of integrating that all into one article.
When I read this, I read that as the data center prevention article. You know, that, you know, we want data center, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we want data centers because they don't create a lot of traffic and they are very, very high value. And the second thing I've said this before in other forums, is the 50,000 square foot constraint.
Yep.
It really is don't come to Southborough if you're a large entity. To put that into context, a typical Home Depot or a Target or any of those big box stores typically run 100 to 125,000 square feet. And, you know, I also still have some concerns about the definition of light manufacturing. You know, you say you can't have hazardous materials. Every light manufacturing entity in the world has hazardous materials. Comes with it. I'm correct, right, Tim?
Well, I mean, you certainly have, you know, oil and
Alcohol
all
and
kinds of things that
acetone and,
might consider hazardous, but if I remember right, what they were after is not having hazardous materials, the processing facility or storage of large volumes of hazardous materials.
yeah.
I don't have that.
I'm sure that's probably the case, but, you know, then we ought to say what we mean rather than leave it open. Those are my
Yeah. So the deal on
comment.
this one is like, I hear what you're saying on a lot of this, and it's just the classic of, it's been worked up a lot, you had a lot of hearings, and do you feel like it's so, again, I think we should just wait to vote on this until the next meeting. It's just a lot of text. to take.
I agree. I mean,
Okay. Let's do that then. But they're not gonna, the planning board's not gonna change any of the language at this point. It's
No,
just-
She said that tonight,
Yeah.
but they also hope it doesn't get amended either. They're hoping
Correct,
that-
yeah.
If I could just add one more comment to this too. One of the comments I made last night is reflected in this copy, but it wasn't in two places. So it was put in the data center area, which was aligning the noise provisions with our current noise bylaw and the state standard for stationary noises, but it was not put in the first section. Or if it was, some other language has remained.
Here's another,
It was always in the data center section because I put it there.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Al, to your point, I mean, here's a reason you would be against it, right? Is the entire first section, there's a section called performance standards. And it says, it's a lot of stuff about noise prevention, decibel levels, vibrations, that has a lot of citations to state law, right? So, just kind of is what it is.
Tim, I'm sure I should remember this. What did you have to do with the writing of this?
Tim lit Woodland Road, just for whoever's taking notes. Marnie Houlihan had proposed doing something about data centers. And I stood up and said, well, you need to be really careful about what you mean by data center. Because, you know, you have people today who do payroll processing, people who do, you know, the ordinary stuff we've thought of as data centers before the AI and the cloud world came along. So I helped to develop the language that talked about, you know, what is a data center, how do you distinguish it from other kinds of things that have also used the name data center. I think, to Al's point about, you know, is this the prevention thing? Personally, I don't think it should be interpreted as a prevention thing. It's a question of, it's something that would have could conceivably have a very high impact. And you're seeing that roll out across the country. There are concerns about, you know, the amount of energy, the ones that are used for AI and to some extent for cloud computing use many times the amount of electricity, you know, power density. They require cooling and all this stuff that can impact the community. And so what I think the planning board was trying to get at was, gee, if there's something like this, maybe we should at least think about it and do it by special permit. The changes, at least as I last saw it, said they're not permitted anywhere except industrial park. an industrial park, they require a special permit, and the rest of all that language is trying to tease out, you know, stuff that you really shouldn't have to worry about because people have been doing it for years and years, from the massive, you know, energy consuming, in some cases, you know, water consuming, and facilities, you know, that also can produce a lot of noise because of the air conditioning and all that kind of stuff. So from my point of view, you know, it's not a prevention thing. It's a, you know, stop and think about it because, you know, it's large, it can have community impact. And if we don't do anything, then my take is, because we allow data processing, you would allow these. Because what goes on in these data centers is just a specialized form of data processing. So if you don't do anything, you have no controls over it, because data processing is by right.
Okay, so you agree with going the special permit route?
Yes.
So I think the big question is, do we want data centers? And, you know, if we do, then we should make our zoning bylaws consistent with that desire to have data centers. And I agree with you, there's lots of issues surrounding data centers. Actually, the big one that I can think of is diesel backup generators. Because, you know, when the grid goes down, I still want my ChatGPT. And, but, you know, but we.
Environmental impact
Yeah.
was, you know, included as part of the things that ought
But
to
I
be
think
considered.
the issue is, you know, we are in competition with our neighbors for all of the types of businesses that we would like to have in town. And if this is a type of business that we want to have in town, then I think we need to structure this bylaw to be welcoming. And if it's not, if we simply say, you know, no, take a number, you're in line with everybody else, which is what this really says now. I mean,
Well, no, I think what it says is, you know, if we want it in a part of the town where it's not in the middle of a residential neighborhood. You know,
agreed.
Where it's,
right.
You know, not having, you know, enormous impact either from
right.
Noise or from.
Right. You know, we
or
strongly
water
recommend.
system or, you know, any of the rest of that stuff. So
Right.
I view this more as something that's trying to be protective rather than something that's trying to be preventive. But that's Tim's view of what the planning board did.
Yeah.
And my little part in trying to make it
So-
happen.
We can talk about this
Okay,
more next.
let's just talk about it on the 17th.
One last question if I can. What's the risk of this not being on this particular warrant? Is there a risk to any of the projects that are kind of going on in the area? Is there a reason that this has to be on?
Okay, so I think that
Let's.
there is
yes,
a rule.
There actually are. You know what's terrible about this? Look at where this is on the warrant. This is actually pretty important, right? People are going to be pretty tired by the time we get to this thing, if they bother to stay. So I kind of hate that this is so, the other ones are fine. They're easy, but boy, this is a substantive thing. And yes, there are projects that, pending projects that this is important for.
Yeah, so the bulk of this, I mean, even though the data center section is fairly long, the bulk of it is getting rid of night watchmen, you know, updating users.
Yeah.
The two new things are the battery energy storage systems, which the state is shoving down our throat by Dover Amendment, and this is trying to put some guardrails around that. And those systems are to some extent related to data centers. So those are the two pieces that are new and interesting.
And the performance standards? Is that new?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That-
Well, you know, I'm probably going to end up saying half a loaf is better than none, and this is better than what we have.
It is.
But
They've been working on this, so they didn't get it done last town meeting. That's when it was supposed to be, right? Then we asked them not to do it in the fall because we didn't want it to take anything away from the Costco vote. We wanted that to be Costco. So they agreed, and now they brought it forth. So I don't think they're going to want to punt this any further.
So if we moved it up, and I think that's a good idea, you get to, let's say what we've got on a consent actually ends up on being on a consent, right? So that, I mean, maybe you just do it right after the
Right after
FY
the money.
'27 operating budget?
Yeah, cool.
Where's the liquor license fall?
That should stay up there high too, because we want to make sure we got a quorum for that.
Yep.
I think I'd move it right after 19.
All right, so you'd be a little less aggressive of,
Yeah, I think,
well, how about actually the license for Costco? Well, maybe we move that way up.
together.
I would move that way, way up.
Yep.
Let's get that done.
We're on the
I would-
consent agenda.
We don't
I know,
control the consent.
I know, but I mean, we could suggest it.
All right, one thing at a time. So the Article 21, the Costco, what if we move that up to just right after the FY '27 operating budget?
Shouldn't it fall like after the roof, like 14, 15?
You could do it like you could do it by like 8.
Just get all the budget stuff done, which is,
I mean, it does make sense to group the budget stuff, but it's,
Budget stuff's got some big ones too, so, you know, the capital,
You could do it as 14, move 14 down.
okay, the Costco, move it up to like 14.
Yeah.
And this one.
So, but that's before or after the Trotter roof?
I would do it after the roof.
Okay, yep,
Okay, so after 14?
yeah. And I would put the paying classification study after that roof too. Get all the capital together.
Yeah.
And then the industrial park district?
Yeah.
What if we did it, we just put it like around Article, like where 21 is right now, so it'd be before the CPC, before
I
the,
would do the Costco alcohol and the industrial park together,
Yep,
since,
Back to back.
yep.
So make it number 16.
okay, 16?
Yep.
All right. Okay,
And that would probably make planning board happy too, I would think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Articles being moved up.
okay. I think we have one last thing to vote on before we get out of here tonight, which is the ban of non-reusable plastic bags. There's Jack Barron's article, I think, based on our email exchange, he might be coming tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, a week from today.
you can come tomorrow.
So he would be coming by Zoom.
you
And
need the
we just
plastic bags?
hear him before we take a vote on it. But, so look,
Do you want to wait and see if the proponents for 37 can come next week as well?
Yeah, I want to hear what
Before you
they've
make
got
a-
to say.
Right, okay.
There's pros and cons. in it.
just one comment, you look at it, this is not really a legally conforming
No. No.
article. It says, to see if the town of Southborough will vote to accept a general bylaw to ban the use of non-reusable plastic checkout bags in certain categories and situations beginning January 1st. It just doesn't, like, what are the categories and situations? And you need to go
Really?
into a lot more detail.
Well, it's not binding, but it would give a general idea of how people feel about it, and then.
Well, if it's a bylaw, it's binding.
No, this is the seat of the town will vote, oh, I guess.
It's a citizen-
Well, I think
Or is
we'd ask town council. Town council can give an opinion at town
He
meeting.
can give his opinion before you get
Yeah,
there.
is this gonna be approved by the Attorney General's office or not? Okay, so we'll wait till next meeting to see if anyone surfaces to talk about this. One of the things, if they came, I'd suggest, why don't you just, we would work with you if you wanna do a better bylaw for the next fall town meeting, take a better stab at it.
It'd be a good one for a fall town meeting.
I
Yeah.
agree. If we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, the question is this advisory or is it?
Who
We can
knows?
get Jay's take on it.
CPA, if we're going to talk about the planning board's IP article, shouldn't they be here with us? They'd give us feedback on
I
it?
mean, I don't think they need to have an entire meeting.
No, but,
They seem pretty tired of, going through it. Hey, if,
That
if,
was the
if
purpose of
Mimi,
last night's meeting, is for us to go if we wanted to
Yeah.
talk to him, so I say no.
Okay.
Um,
okay. Are we ready to Adjourn? I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Litt had something.
All those in
Oh,
favor?
sorry. Okay.
Advisory
I know that,
adjourns.
but
It's okay. Sorry.